children not in school at this time. So let's move to the next order of business, statements by citizens, guests, and delegation. Mr. David Burks, if you would come forward, please. Please state your name, address the subject of your presentation. Your topic must be specific in nature, dealing with only the policies and procedures. We reserve the right to terminate remarks at any time that you fail to adhere to the guidelines or to your comments become abusive to an individual board member, the board as a whole, the director of schools, or any employee of the school system. The board should have no obligation to respond. At the time of the conclusion of your remarks, the board and the director of schools shall have the privilege to ask questions. The remarks will be limited to 5 minutes, and Kelly Ford, our board secretary, will be keeping time. All right, Ms. Ford, you ready to go? All right, Ms. Burks.
My name is David Burks. My concerns are concerning Wilson County Elementary School at Watertown, concerning the recent issues with mold in the facilities there. I've been asked to speak on behalf of the concerned parents and concerned community in Watertown Elementary through the third through 5th grade building. One of the main reasons I'm here, my 10-year-old son spent the first week of his life in the NICU, and I'm concerned about the environment that he was potentially exposed to. It's very difficult as a parent or as a father to take your wife home from the hospital and not take your child home with you at the same time. It's very concerning. As you guys are well aware, during the parent-teacher conferences, many parents went and toured the facility during their parent-teacher conferences, and there was old classroom furniture sitting outside of the school building. As you walked in, didn't know why it was sitting there. It brought a lot of concerns. There were several dehumidifiers placed throughout the entire building. It raised more questions. On Monday, September 14th, there were several parents that went to the school to ask questions, see what was going on. We were concerned. It blew up over social media during the weekend. I will agree with that 100%. There were a lot of things that were being said both ways. Okay. There wasn't a lot of answers that we got that day. Since the meeting on the 14th, the school has released the air quality reports. The first report was kind of a not very thorough report. The second page of the report, if you guys have looked at it, talks about Knoxville, the nursing school in Knoxville. Brings a lot of questions as to, is this correct? What was the person that was writing this report? Did they know what they were discussing? There was a bad cut and paste job in the document. The second report was very much thorough. The entire building and the annex was tested. However, in both reports, it states no pathogenic or toxinic molds were amplified in the indoor environment. It doesn't answer the question if it's there or not. It just says it's not growing, that they're not growing it faster in the environment. That's a big concern of mine. All the responses by the school have been made via social media or through the newspaper. No letter or statements have been sent home with the students except for a letter stating the change of venue. Nothing has been posted about this issue on either the school website or the Watertown Elementary School website. The letter was addressed to, I believe, each of the board members, as well as Dr. Wright, as well as some other individuals within the school. Sent Thursday, September 24th. There's been no response to that letter. Here are the requests that were made in that letter. If you guys would like another copy, I'm more than welcome to give you another copy. I understand there is kind of a game plan as to correct the building. We would like to see that. Also, after the AC units are replaced, we ask that there's a very detailed cleaning of the building to ensure that it is safe for our students to return. Another air quality or sample report is done, and that's shared with us prior to that as well. An open house is held to show the repairs and upgrades to the building prior to the students coming back into the building. We ask that there be a town hall type meeting for the school to sit on one side and the concerned parents and the concerned community members to sit on the other side and listen to what the game plan was and how this could be corrected or fixed to not happen again in the future. There is another question, because the 4th and 5th grade was moved to the high school. They don't have access to playground equipment. They don't have access to recess, or their recess is limited to going into the wrestling gym. Is there the possibility of using a local church or portables? Is that a possibility to help give these children a chance to get out of the classroom and work off some of this excess energy that they have? And the last point that some people have asked is to make sure that there's no retaliation against any of the students or any of the teachers or the staff. And that is my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions for Mr. Burke? This time. Anybody?
I would like to say something. I've tried to look into this. I mean, you had your opportunity, and I would just like to address what you had to say. I've looked into this very thoroughly, and I've been on site on several occasions. Had conversations about humidity levels with our maintenance people and those type of things. I've requested that, that we do our own humidity level checks and to document those kind of things in those buildings or all of our buildings to verify because I just want to make sure everything's right. My biggest concern when I went to that building was the cleanliness of that building. And I can't, I don't know whether you can, but or anybody that might be concerned but I was concerned that some of those areas in issue that weren't as clean as I would like them to be. I think they should be. I think there's no doubt about that. And I think some of our commission has visited that, and we all come to that same assumption on that issue. And going back to the beginning, when the issue was brought to the board about replacing the units, I don't think there was any, we immediately, a 5-0 consented to have that fixed. I feel like I've listened, I came and met with a group that asked me one day, I was coming back down here and been talking to Dr. Wright about an hour about this issue, and we've had several discussions on this thing. And this thing is going to be made right. This thing is going to be like you wanted your children. Those schools are our town. We're not, and they're very important. And I've lived in those things all my life. My wife taught in those same halls you're discussing about 20-some years. My grandson left that same school last year. And I know that there are good people serving up here on this board. And as I told one gentleman who, I had 4 phone calls on this matter. I called 2 of them back twice to make sure we're on the same page in the conversation. This thing will be right. This thing will be the way the environment you want for your children. Now, if any step wasn't taken as quick as it should be or whatever, I don't know. I had several conversations prior to any public notice on my part that when they brought up the discussion about the units and stuff, that I would check frequently here at the central office to make sure, asking that is everything okay? Are we all right? Is our buildings like they need to be? And I was told that they were. I went up and visited the school back a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, I can't remember the date, but and I saw some of the things you're talking about that hadn't been removed from the campus, they'd been removed from the building. And I made a phone call and they were immediately removed. But to make this brief, and I don't want to bore anybody, I have very, very confidence that this thing will be made right, that this board will want it to be made right. These 17,000 kids, will they be where I live, in my home, or anybody else's, we're gonna take care of these children. And, you know, I just feel like, and I know some of these faces around these rooms, we've sweated a lot together, some of us. I feel like there's a level of trust that's going to give us an opportunity to make this thing right, and I hope you will too. This board will make sure that your children will be in the environment they need, and I feel like you'll be completely satisfied. I can't speak for the board on any of those matters, but that's just how I feel about this, and Dr. Wright has assured me that things will be as they should be, and I just feel like that you can rest on that.
I guess my question would be for you, Mickey. What's the timeline? Are we working on those units now? I know that was the initial plan to have those AC heat and air units replaced during fall break. Is that happening?
No, we've never told anybody it was coming during fall break. They'd come in as soon as they could. Right now, the delivery date at the earliest is November the 15th. We hope to have it completed by Christmas.
Okay. So November the 15th.
Yeah, these units are not an in-stock item. They make them as they go, as they're ordered. So they're not sitting in a warehouse somewhere. They make them specifically for that school based on the voltage and everything that's needed. So November the 15th is the date we've been given right now from the manufacturer.
That was given to you last week, was it correct?
Last Friday.
Who is the manufacturer?
Bard. Bard.
And they've had conversation with the CEO of the company as far as directly to get some insurances. And again, those are customized units as far as they're building. And I think 60 units they're developed because we have two schools that will be outfitted.
65.
65
between both
units.
of them.
And memory serves me correct, that was like $1.3 million.
For Watertown.
Yeah.
And then there's another part of it goes to Stony Creek.
Okay. All right. Well,
Chairman, I have one more.
Yes, sir.
As far as our employees, as long as people are doing the right thing, there's nothing that nobody's going to take issue with anybody that's trying to do the right thing and representing their school like they should be, whether it be on this issue or any other issue. You know, I think that this board demands that type of thing, and I have enough respect for Dr. Wright, that she will, you know, she'll do the job where that's concerned, and I think there's nobody has to lose sleep over that issue either.
one other question for you, Mr. Burke. You made reference to that there wasn't any kind of recess time for them or any PE time for them. I see Miss Christian is here tonight. Also, Mr. Ruckle standing back there in the back. Would either one of you all like to respond to that? I know, Jeff, that's your building. You're in charge of that building. I certainly don't want to, I don't think it's a good thing to move those kids out of that building and take them somewhere, bus them to where they have a playground, especially the weather getting bad. I know you're doing everything you can to accommodate those kids with the forest physical fitness coach.
Sure, we're using and they've been told this, they're special teachers, they can use the rest of the facility anytime they want to. Last Friday, we allowed them to go to the track, made sure they brought the proper shoes, and they also, or they had that availability, I'm not sure if they went, but I do know that Friday they went to the practice football field for some play time because they requested. Yes, we're willing to accommodate them where possible.
And your PE teachers are also helping and assisting with some of the 4th and 5th grade teachers, if I remember correctly, as far as offering not only access, but also.
Yeah, so they can use anything we have, and then that rest of the facility is not being used during the day by any of our PE classes, so you're not mixing them, but it's available anytime during the day to use it, some steam or play, and I was the other day they were doing some games, so yes, that's available.
Miss Christian, I think,
Here.
she's been monitoring, I believe, Ms. Smith has been too.
I just want to take a few moments. I had to write down some things because this man is so kind to us.
I thought having 3 buildings in operation on campus was difficult, but going from school to school as an administrator is even more difficult. Thanks to Jeff Luttrell and his faculty for welcoming our 4th and 5th grade students. There are high school teachers that gave up classrooms for our kids. The high school teachers and the students have been so respectful since we've been guests there. Our students are never left alone. They're supervised at all times, even in fire drills. And if any of our students ever felt intimidated, it's probably because of the students, they're larger in size. It's a big difference between a 9-10-year-old and there is a 17 and 18-year-old. But there have not been any problems brought to our attention. Our students go to lunch before the high school students. They are supervised at arrival and dismissal, the car riders too. They line up to go to the restrooms as a group. We keep them separated from the older students. Our teachers, even though they're displaced with their materials at Watertown Middle School, they have never missed a beat teaching. It's amazing to me. The students are still having classes and learning is continuing. When we begin after fall break is over, we're going to start after school tutoring for our 4th and 5th grade. Will be bused back to the elementary, and we will use classrooms at the elementary for our 4th and 5th grade because it will just be a few students. Basically, it's really gone well. We're anxious to get back in the A building. It's like, you know, we're visitors, and we know that it's going to be possible. This could have been worse if we had no place to go, but thank goodness for Watertown High School. Our students actually see it as the Hyatt Regency, and hopefully for them, it will be a goal for them to see what a nice school Watertown High School is, and they will work hard to achieve to get there and graduate. We're making it work, and we're doing the very best we can, and we appreciate the parents that we have and their concerns. But I can't praise Mr. Luttrell enough. He's been outstanding to us.
And let me just address the board briefly, let you know what we did do. Mr. Hall called me that morning, we met, 2 or 3 things on the table. I thank everybody involved, from their administration to our administration to the central office. I want to make sure that the learning environment is protected as being the most important thing. And we were able to, just off the top of my head, we took 2 science teachers, moved them permanently to labs, which opened up classrooms so they could go into them, but yet we could still conduct our classes in the science labs. We took a inclusion teacher that had a classroom, but she was spending most of her day in regular classes in inclusion settings, so we moved her in with another teacher permanently. We had a special ed aide that we moved to their classroom where they did some accommodations. In a classroom, we moved into another area. We were able to move some classrooms and take some coaches and put them in a team room. In a gym, which is more than big enough for the classroom. We've got 2 classes going on there. So it was really not that big of an issue, but we had tremendous cooperation from teachers and never missed a beat. By 10 o'clock the next morning, there was teaching and learning going on. That's our most important concern. We've worked through the parking issues. I think we're getting them out a little bit early to get everybody out the best we can. Got a little bit of backup in the morning. We can continue to monitor it and try to move it through as quick as possible. And if anybody's got suggestions how we can make it better accommodated, we'd be willing to listen and see. But I do want everybody to know that your teachers, their attitude has been tremendous. I do understand personally some of the angst, maybe a little bit. I had one. I've got a 5th grader. She was a little bit concerned, I think, until she realized that it wasn't that big a deal. And now she likes riding to school with Dad, so I've never been able to do that my whole career, so I like that too. So we'll get through it. Y'all take care of your end, I'm sure, but we do want to continue to monitor, make sure student learning is going on. And we had some concerns about mixing these age of students. I met with my student body. That's the first group I met with. Gave them my expectations for our guests, and so far we haven't had any major issues, and we'll continue to stay on top of it.
Well, I want to thank Mr. Luttrell as well, because when having the conversation with him about what we were planning, he didn't need to pause or miss a beat as far as we will make this work. But I will say that that day I was out there looking at, they were lining up to go to the restroom, and a young 5th grader, young boy, wanted to reassure me that he did not need to go to middle school, that he could just stay at the high school, and really that he could make it work, and I just nodded my head.
Any questions for us?
Just thank you for all the hard work and dedication.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, I think I see some jockey control gentlemen back here. I would like to ask them a couple of questions
All right.
if it's appropriate.
And we also have, I believe, a gentleman from Terracon here as well.
Okay. Well, if he's there, bring him up too, because I'd like for all the brains to be in the room at one time so we can talk about this. I was already here. Oh, I'm sorry. Got to include you in that. All right. I'm sure you have seen many buildings with mold and with air conditioner and water issues and problems. Is there any reason for us not to expect this building to be completely sanitized and brought back to a standard that would be suitable and acceptable to teach our children in?
And Ms. Weathers, may I ask that we have everyone introduce themselves so we can have that for the record?
Sure.
I'm Rusty McClellan, Engineering Manager for Cost Control.
I'm Carl Ziegler, the Operations Manager.
Frank Donahue, the Construction Manager.
And I'm Matt Johnston with Turk.
And to answer your question, when we sat and talked with Mr. Hall, really the outcome of that meeting was, how do we make sure this is right for the students? Mr. Robinson said, we're going to make it right. How do we do that properly? We can get them back into the normal routine. And then thirdly, and this is what we're working with Mr. Hall, is how do we use our technology and our systems to make sure it doesn't happen again? And so to your point, I have full confidence that when the kids get back in school, it'll be in perfect condition, it'll be healthy and ready for the kids to be there. And then going forward, we'll have the technology and provision in place to prevent something like this from happening again. And I'll let
Yeah, we do plan on doing another survey on the building after everything's complete and balanced. Those systems I've seen in other schools up in Kentucky, and they're very efficient, very good. They monitor everything, so the relative humidity is going to be monitored. So, and that is a big key. You're always going to have mold in buildings. You're always going to have dust, you're always going to have paper products, ceiling tiles. That's what the food source is. If you can limit the moisture, you're going to limit the mold growth. So those systems will limit the moisture, barring floods or anything like that. But humidity, moisture, it will.
Mr. Johnson, and I know that Mr. Weathers opened this up, but there was, a reference as far as, 2 reports were prepared by Terracon
Yes.
for the district, and one that was, as far as looking at the heading on the second page, there was a reference, and if you would address that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I regret it. We do edit off of old documents. A lot of our front-end part is criteria evaluation for what we see in buildings. That's standard language. That's industry standard. What I did, and unfortunately it's happened before, and I caught it, I forced a page break in. It flipped my old header in there. You notice the rest of the pages are the correct header. I can assure you the content of the report is Watertown Elementary for September 9th. So I apologize. I should have proved it a little better.
So once we get the systems, the new air conditioner system installed and the humidity detection equipment, I'm sure that's part of this equation as well. There should be no problem with mold that may be embedded in the concrete, embedded in the walls, leaching out. It'll be a problem for our kids and our teachers.
I believe all surfaces are going to be clean. All the ceiling tiles are going to be replaced. The grid system is going to be wiped down, cleaned, and disinfected. Is there Serpro?
Well, when we get that, it's part of their parts.
Okay. We'll have to talk to them about their protocol, but that's what we're anticipating. That's what I recommended. So, yeah, we'll go in there. Then all the walls will be wiped down, the floors will be cleaned. We'll get the system balanced because it has to have good exchange, or else we won't get good air quality.
And the other thing that would be addressed as far as all the existing ductwork will be taken out. It will be non-existent, as you said, as far as replacing not only the ceiling tiles, the grids,
Yeah.
And the new system itself will not be dependent on that ductwork or anything that with the old system.
Yeah, that's part, I believe
Is
that's
that
all going to be
correct?
That's right.
demolished, yeah. So it's a ductless system.
So everybody's in agreement that this shouldn't be an issue once we get everything remediated, cleaned up, sanitized, repainted, and right humidity control, right temperature control. Everything should be good for us for educating our children.
And we'll test it and verify that.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I've got one. You mentioned going forward, we should not have a problem with relative humidity with the new units in there.
Right.
Why did we have this problem this time? I mean, we spent a lot of money with you guys.
So
We shouldn't have this problem.
that's a fair question.
Also.
So at Johnson Controls, we've been here for several years now. Done a good job, I think, of working with the staff here, coordinating, and not only getting the savings we guarantee, but getting above that, to help drive the bottom line for the school. And what we need to do is do a better job coordinating with your staff. At one point, we had a one-point contact lead who came out here every week and worked with the staff, coordinated, monitored, and it was a lot more proactive. Unfortunately, he did pass away, and the mistake we made was not immediately reestablishing that point of contact. What we have now is an operations manager from Tennessee who met behind me. He's going to be here every week, face-to-face with the customer. We're going to have our engineer coming out here every month, coordinate with the customer. And it really goes all about that coordination. So we're always trying to improve things. We're always trying to make things better for you. What we need to do is take a more proactive stance. So when we're working with your staff, when we develop custom screens, we can develop alarms. There's a lot of things we can develop as a partner with your staff. It's going to require us to work better and closer with your staff. Does that answer your question?
A little bit, but I'm just surprised that we didn't have those procedures in place to start with.
Well, at this particular school, we were monitoring temperature. We always have been. The units are a little older, nothing like the units that are coming in, the more efficient units you referred to. And when you set the units back at night, we're still investigating the details, but when you set those older units back, they have a lot of trouble catching back up. Right?
Okay?
So, to your point, while we are working with the staff to be more efficient, the solution there would have been as soon as we set those units back and make that improvement, to watch it every hour, for the next day, next week, and monitor. So working more closely with the staff to monitor that and not looking at a trend a week later.
Who should monitor that, you or us?
Actually, it's a partnership,
Oh.
both of us.
Okay.
So
Y'all didn't monitor at all during that period?
we actually didn't have humidity sensors in that area. All we have is
But you
temperature.
had temperature.
All we have is temperature.
Nobody monitored the temperature.
Oh, we monitored, the temperature was fine. The temperature set point is fine.
Okay.
But humidity is the issue here, not temperature. They're related.
Yes.
So if you can imagine mid-July, it's 95 degrees outside or more. It's 95% humidity. And the humidity is, you can be 80 degrees and be 100% humidity. You can be 70 degrees and be 100% humidity. So once you get that moisture in the room, it's about monitoring the moisture. So the first thing we did was talk about putting in humidity sensors, monitoring humidity, and developing a dehumidification process.
Is there going to be electronically monitored?
It will be electronically monitored and alarms will be set as well.
So you'll have a dashboard that somebody can pull up if an alarm goes off to see what the problem is.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're not going to have an answer for this. I'm just surprised that we did not have that in place to start with. You don't have an answer for that. I'm disappointed that we didn't have it to start with.
Do we not have humidity control or measuring in any of our buildings?
Some of them do, some of them don't. On most of the old buildings, it's all temperature sensing. So we're investigating, that's one of the conversations we're having with Mr. Hall right now, is taking a look at every facility. Right now, he's been proactive. He's taken the measures to go override systems, turn them on at whatever expense it takes to make sure we have the right settings for the children. Now what we're doing is we're going back methodically through each school and monitoring the temperature. We have to put some temporary humidity sensors we have to make sure that the settings in there are going to be upheld to the humidity. It's never been an issue before. Now that we've seen it happen at one school, we're going to take every school system by system and monitor to make sure we can be confident going forward it's not going to happen. We work at a lot of school districts. There are a lot of schools that don't have humidity sensors. That's not uncommon. So to say, why didn't you have it before, that's, industry standard doesn't say have a humidity sensor in every classroom, in every building, in every school.
But you're gonna have them now.
The proactive measure we're taking is see where do we need them? Where do we need them that we know we can be 100% confident we can shut the system off and not keep up with it?
And that will be our Tennessee contact, again, to call it directly behind you.
Any other questions? Sir, Nick? Good, by good?
Not good, but I'm, okay.
Mr. Burks, I assume that since you were here tonight, that you're going to be the point person on this for the group up there in Watertown. So I'm
I've been
going to,
asked to, yes.
okay, then I'm going to ask Dr. Wright and Mr. Hall, as we move through this process, that
Yes.
you will be the person that they contact and give you the information and follow the timeline and give you information where you can keep the folks up there that you're spoken for tonight, but we can't contact every one of them, but we will try to keep you in the loop as to what's going on a regular basis. Is that fair? That's fair enough for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may add something with that, you know, met with Mr. Burks, Mr. Lamster, and also Mr. Buchanan. And I hope that much of what you said there towards the end of what you were saying as far as what we agreed to that, you know, we would not only address, but I do like the point as far as that we will have that dialogue conversation, and particularly as far as any updates as we move forward with this. So again, that conversation started late last week.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a very candid conversation as far as concerns both ways. And Mr. Chair, that's something we do want to continue. And I also sent a note back to make sure that what I understood is what we agreed upon. And I didn't get a response back, so I'm assuming it was correct.
I've not responded yet.
Did you read the email?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just checking. Okay.
Just to elaborate on what Mr. Tomlin said, there's no way that we can respond to all emails, they're coming. So I apologize for not responding to a letter or whatever.
Yes.
As a board, it's just hard, so to have one contact as yourself would help us a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
Pastor Glenn Denton has approached me before a meeting and asked to be allowed to address the board tonight. Pastor Denton, if you would make your way to the podium, please. Please state your name and your address and the subject of your presentation. Your topic must be specific in nature, dealing only with the policies and procedures. We reserve the right to terminate remarks at any time that you fail to adhere to the guidelines or that your comments become abusive to an individual board member, the board as a whole, the director of schools, or any employee of the school system. The board shall have no obligation to respond. At the conclusion of your remarks, the board and the director of schools shall have the privilege to ask questions. Your remarks will be limited to 3 minutes since you did not ask to be on the board.
Line to get on the schedule.
Anytime before the agenda goes out. And that would be, what, 12 days, 10 days? I mean,
It is in the paper. The next meeting, for the next meeting, it's going to be October 21st.
It has to be 12 days before that.
yes.
Good. I will speak tonight on false teaching and the LGBT clubs in the school. The 5 points of Islam are taught and their beliefs in our school, which was stated that they were not. But I have not only have a test that states that from Carroll Oakland School, and I also have the material from the book that states it as well. There is 3 times more information on Islam than there is on the nation of Israel. And instead of it being called an Arab nation or something like that in geography, it's just called Islam, which is a religion. I do not believe that the school teachers are qualified to teach theology. I believe that's our job at our church. And Catholicism is not biblical Christianity, which is tied together in our school books. Islam is given far more space than so-called Christianity. So Islam is taught in the book as being tolerant of them that they conquer. They are the most intolerant group that's ever hit this world. They're evil, brutal murderers. They have no tolerance for anyone. Their goal is the extermination of everyone except them. And so Islamic teaching is evil. Not every Arab is evil, but all Islamic teaching is evil. I hope we remember 9/11. I hope we have not forgotten. And I don't know where we have forgotten this, that Muhammad's last wife was 9 years of age. They met at 6, consummated at 9. And that most of the Muslim girls are married before their teenage years, and so they just become Muslim baby machines, and they absolutely have no rights. If they were given the right to leave without torture or killing, they probably would all leave that religion. And so if we're going to teach that in our classes, let's teach it the way it is and teach our kids the way it ought to be. And so before Common Core, 5 pillars of Islam was not taught, because I have the teachers schedule before that. So they teach that hate, that's what drives them, and martyrdom is what saves them. I also noticed that we left off the claim that he claimed to ascended from Mount Zion. The Mosque of Omar is built over that holy city, and they keep something stirred up there all the time. Nothing is mentioned about that in the book. And so if we're going to teach the 5 pillars of Islam, then we ought to be able to teach the one way to heaven, which is Jesus. So I've got a problem with that. And if you have a sodomite child who needs a club to go to, I suggest that that be done in your living room, not in the taxpayers' public schools, to which most people would detest and cannot stand. So their converts is by force. By the way, our United States Navy would not exist. It would not exist if it was not for Muslim terrorists. That is why we have a United States Navy. And so I leave you with that tonight, and I want you to all remember what Mark 8:38 says, that if you're ashamed of me and my words in this sinful, adulterous generation, I'll be ashamed of you when the Son of Man comes with his holy angels. Amen.
Anybody have anything they'd like to say to that?
All I can say is amen.
Amen.
Yeah, I would like to have a copy of the test that you're talking about and the section of studies that you're talking about.
If I can take the name off the test, I'll be glad to do that.
So I agree, it's, I wish we didn't study it, but.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add one more. We are bound by law, according to the state legislature and federal law, to teach to the curriculum. We have a modified version, I think, of Common Core called Tennessee Core or 10 Core. And there are provisions in that state standard for including Islam in historical teaching. If you want to change that, then you have to contact your state representatives and your federal representatives, your congressmen and your state senator, your federal senators, and they can drive the change, whereas we have to respond to the change. And, you know, I believe, you know, a lot different than a lot of the words you said I hear every Sunday in church, but I think we have to work it from a legislative standpoint to make it right for us.
I understand that.
My encouragement.
I understand. I've contacted all representatives. I understand it is being dealt with in our legislature. It's being dealt with in the Senate and the House. And so it's also, you're going to start losing federal money when you start having parents that quit sending their children to school on the days that that's taught.
That's right.
And when they quit taking those tests. And you don't want to lose federal money, and nobody does, but that's going to happen. because we're fed up with it. We should have already been here. But we can fill this place up every week and every month if we have to with people who believe that. But sooner or later, it's got to stop. And somebody's got to put a stop to it. And so we're going to every area we can, sir. I've tried to make all my rounds.
But you have to go to the legislative chamber.
I will.
You have to take your constituents with you to the legislative chamber to make that happen.
Yeah, we. But you also have more than one curriculum to choose from.
One last thing, Pastor. I wish that we could be a sanctuary school system. That means we can take the federal money, but then teach what we want to without the federal government telling us how to do it. That's a different issue. But you mentioned the clubs that we're having to allow in. If we allow in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, then it's mandated that we have to allow other clubs with certain stipulations. If they meet that, we don't have a choice. But I could not agree with you more.
Amen.
Does the children has to push that club, or does an adult? I understand adults are pushing the club, not the children.
Well,
It's based on student request.
student request, and then they have to have a
Teacher
sponsor is the word I was looking for, teacher sponsor to do that. If they don't meet those criteria, there's not a club. But if they have one, and I think there's probably some teachers out there too that will do that. Anyway.
Thank you for your time.
I want to emphasize what Mr. Withers has just said. These things that are handed down to us, there's a lot of things that are handed down to us that we as a Board of Education don't particularly like. But we're bound by law that we have to teach to the standard. So I would encourage you all, when the legislature goes back into session, that you take this group down to the Legislative Plaza and get with Representative Pody and Representative Lynn and Senator Beavers and the Commissioner of Education and the Governor and anybody else that you could get as an audience and tell them that you don't like this. Because the local boards of education, or LEEs as they like to respond to, local education authorities, as they like to refer to us, you know, we're bound to do what they tell us to do. And that's the only thing we had. And I think it would only be appropriate that since Carol Oakland was called out here tonight, that Ms. Farrell, if she wants to, that she could respond to what was said about her teacher and that being taught. Because, Brother Denton, that's the first time that I've heard that a specific school has been singled out that's been happening at in our county. I can't tell you what's been going on in other counties because we don't know about that. But I haven't heard of this being taught in any of our schools to the extent that you say it was tonight. So Carol, would you like to respond to that?
I mean, we're just following the scope and sequence that we have and using the adopted textbook that we have.
And we have several middle school principals here that as far as whether they want to address it or not. But the thing, if anyone's even interested, I have the standards, how you can access the standards, what is taught. If you will look at the 6th grade standards, and again, it's in the context of world history, you'll see a large portion that's devoted to Christianity, including the 10 Commandments in 6th grade. And you look at a scope and sequence as far as how what's addressed as far as from early civilization to the Roman Empire. And then even in the 6th grade, it talks about the spread of Christianity through Europe by using the Roman road system. When you move into 7th grade, Christianity is still taught, but in context of looking at as far as the major world religions, but Christianity is still addressed. And in 9th grade, you get into world history and you look at present times. So again, the other thing I would also, since we're here as a group, we teach Bible in high school. We have over 100 kids enrolled in our high schools right now taking Bible. And I know it's been said that we're not allowing kids to bring their Bible to school, that they cannot profess their faith, and that's simply not true. We have 2 sections of 33 kids, 35 kids apiece at one of our high schools alone. So again, the idea that we're proselytizing, indoctrinating. We have teachers that are teaching 7th grade social studies right now that are professed Christians. They're outraged that they are being challenged, that they would indoctrinize or proselytize the Islamic faith, their teaching standards. And again, I think Mr. Thompson, the chair, made the point. I've not had anyone bring to me where a teacher at any school, by name, is indoctrinating, pushing the Islamic faith. Are they teaching as far as location, demographics, and context with history? Yes, and then moving on. But if you have someone that you know that is pushing, I need to know that, because they're not teaching the standards. They're going well beyond that. And if that's the case, then you need to call me, let me know privately that that's taking place. I think the comment was that we said that was not being taught. We do touch on Islam, and Confucianism, and Hinduism, and Buddhism, and Christian faith. I think the comment was also said that this was not taught before the Common Core. I was teaching 25 years ago. It's been part of world history. You cannot teach world history without talking about the influence of religion. We teach about, we don't teach religion.
I have the outline the teachers went by before Common Core. The 5 pillars of Islam was not taught in that.
Well, it might not have shown up in the curriculum, sir, but I can tell you that it was taught prior to Common Core.
Well, I saw it with, it may have been taught in the book. I didn't see the book, but I saw that. I saw it was taught. It was not mandatory taught.
I'm just telling you what I know and what I did as well.
But we're not here to say by proselyte. Our job is here is not, we don't think this, I don't think the schools ought to be teaching the religion period. Because I think especially calling it history. So I think that's a different, even though it's involved in our history, we've always taught it. I know that. But we haven't taught it to the nature of giving us the 5 pillars of Islam and the beliefs about their God and that kind of thing. So that's my complaint, is that we try to teach theology, but school teachers, I think, are not capable of doing that and then holding to their standard. I know what your standard is. I have them too, so I know what you have to do, and I understand that.
I would just like to say one thing, Mr. Chair. Being an educator in the school system myself, and my daughter also is teaching in Georgia right now, and she's teaching 7th grade, and I looked at her 7th grade book, and it has very similar information that is following what a world history book would include concerning the religions. And I certainly want to say, from the standpoint of being an educator in our school system, that I have every faith in our teachers. I have taught with some of the best teachers, and I can assure you that they are teaching about the curriculum. They are not trying to persuade these young people one way or another in any kind of faith. I want to let this audience know that I hope that you would feel that confidence in us as a school board to understand that we are very much concerned about the issues as well. And as Mr. Weathers said, it is something that we are required to follow concerning the state and federal guidelines. But I want to assure you that our teachers are, as Ms. Farrell said, following pacing guides. And, you know, it is part of history. And we certainly don't want our children to go to college and not know the information that other students have already been taught previously in 6th and 7th grade. We want our students to be knowledgeable, but that doesn't mean they have to accept any of the beliefs that the Islamic faith is projecting.
But if we're going to teach it, you shouldn't leave out the parts that makes it look prettier than it really is.
I don't disagree with that, but that's
Mr.
what we're going to have to
McNeil, you got
deal
something else
with.
you want to say?
Yeah, this is also directed at the pastor here. And this is just Wayne McNeese's personal opinion, that the style obviously of the board. I personally believe that we sold our soul to Tom and Core because of Prentice books and Bill Gates. Now, people are gonna argue and tell me, Wayne, that's not so, but it's how Wayne McNeese feels. Okay. Right. That's all I want.
Mr. Robinson?
I'm not going to repeat some of the comments that have already been made, which I agree with. But I kind of hold probably a unique perspective in this room in that I taught world history. And there was a brief period of the NA chapter that didn't consume a whole period, which you talked about Confucianism, Hinduism, all those, and it was, it probably didn't require a chapter. A period of the day. That's about just familiarizing kids. Back in the old days, I'm old. But I was also the first Bible teacher in this camp. And Mr. Luttrell back there was my principal, and he came to me when they put this in curriculum. I was one of the 4 first at the high school. And the remark that he made when he came to me asking me to do that was, he said, Coach, I know you know the Bible, but he said, the big thing is I trust you. But even though he trusted me, he held me accountable. Just as we will hold our employees accountable to teach what they're supposed to be teaching. And because, when you walk into, even when you're teaching the Bible, you may have kids from 10 different religions, but they believe that the Bible, their interpretation 10 different ways. Let's just frame it that way. And so, I spent 4 or 5 hours a day preparing for that claim. My wife will testify to that. She won't back me on much, but she will. I'm just joking. But after 50 years, we agree on a few things. But we will hold these people accountable to whether, properly respecting whatever they're doing in that classroom. And, I think that's what we expect our director to be, holding these people accountable. That's what we have to do. We'll get this done.
Can a parent speak?
No, sir. Not at this time. We've already had our time for that. Don't mean to be rude to you about it, but it's just we need to move on. And while we've got a captive audience, I want to say this. Something came up a while ago about Watertown High School, and I'd like to tell you all, if you haven't had the opportunity to visit Watertown High School and see that facility they got up there, I happened to be there a Friday night to watch Watertown play Forest from over in Bedford County, and some of the people that were there visiting with their football team came up to me after the game and before the game and told me it is unbelievable the facility that you have here in Watertown for a Class AA size school to have the beautiful facility that you all have in a building and you're playing still. So if you hadn't had the opportunity to get up there to Watertown, go up there and see that school, see what your tax dollars, what they're going for. And what a beautiful facility that Mr. Russell and them have up there and the way that they're taking care of it and maintaining. At that time, Dr. Wright, let's move on into our agenda. Approve the consent agenda, adopt the agenda. I hear a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Dr. Wright, I'd like to ask if we approve the consent agenda, and I'd like to ask you to withdraw item number 18 at this time. I'll take that up tonight.
Okay, for the records, you will make sure that it's noted what number 18. And if looking at the agenda that I have in front of me as far as the approval for the RFP for the high school site, and that's what you want withdrawn?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I'd like that to be withdrawn. We'll talk about that later on in the evening tonight. Okay, approval of minutes of the last board meeting. You all have a copy of those minutes in your packet. I hear a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, vote aye.
Aye.
I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as it is, has been amended. Motion, Mr. McNeese. I hear a second. Second by Mr. Withers. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That show passed unanimously. All right. Report from the county attorney. Mr. Jennings?
Can I just stand right here, Mr. Chairman, not to climb all over this stuff?
You certainly can.
So it ain't gonna take me long. Let me just say to you that I sent you out some stuff last week on several things that are pending. I don't have anything to add to that unless you have some questions of me. I do have one matter that, a pending matter that I did not put in that memo that I probably need to discuss with you at some point in time. You got a lot of people here on a lot of different issues. If you want to go ahead and come back to me, I'm fine with that. However you want to handle that.
Is this something we need to discuss in private session?
Yes, sir, we'll need about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? Y'all want to take it up now or you okay? At this time, I'd like to ask that we go in recess at this time to have a consult with our attorney. All right, you ready, Mike?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going in here and have a little private. All right. Let's
Get my coat.
We're back in session. Ladies and gentlemen, get your attention please, we're back in session. All right. Oh.
Your brain is still back there.
While we're waiting on Mr. McNeese to get back, I want to thank all of our teachers and administrators for being here tonight while you're could be on break somewhere or another, enjoying the highlight of these, watching the the leaves change, or or being on the beach. Yeah. Well, yeah, we got two of our favorite pictures here today.
It's not a good time to be the elderly, is it?
No, sir. This is bad. This is bad. And once Mike gets through with his report, Dr. Wright, I'm going to ask that we go ahead and let our student board members say anything they want to say tonight.
And they're getting extra credit for
And let them get out of here because we got a lengthy agenda. And they probably want to go home and get ready to do something tomorrow. Mr. McNeese is back all right. Mr. Jennings?
I did meet with the Board of Education and Dr. Wright regarding a matter of pending litigation. I had asked for the other side to give me a proposal in this litigation, and they did late this evening, exactly really right before this meeting started. I have conveyed that to the board. I really do not think it proper at this time. Well, maybe proper is not the right word, but you may not want to act on that just being presented with that. So I would like for you to take that and consider it, and I will also flesh out some of the questions that you asked me back there. I will reiterate very strongly and very accurately and very truthfully that no votes were asked for and none were taken. We try to limit the time that we do these things, but sometimes we have to do it because of the intricacies of the lawsuit. And so that's what we did. No votes were asked for, none were taken, and unless you feel the need to act on that tonight, I don't think it's required that you act on it this evening. Having said that, I'm open for questions on that or anything else that you may have on your mind, legal matters. But I'll try to keep you updated on these things. I know Mr. Weathers asked me some questions that I'll look into and see if I can get you some answers on them.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we defer any action on this until Mr. Jennings has an opportunity to answer those questions. Maybe next board meeting we'll have that information and can take appropriate action at that time. So that would be my motion.
Y'all heard a motion from Mr. Withers. I hear a second by Mr. Withers' motion, second by Mr. Robinson. Any discussion at this time? Being no discussion, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? They show that pass unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Student board members, Dr. Wright, you want to get him up?
Who wants to volunteer to go first?
I guess I'm going. All right, I guess I'm going. I'm Alexis Vesinola from Lebanon High School. Many new changes at Lebanon this year. We have a new principal who's actually here tonight, some new guidance counselors, numerous new teachers, and our new schedule. Everyone is adjusting very well. In the past month, our fall sports teams have had some big wins. Last week, we took on Wilson Central for their homecoming game. We didn't win, but our big win for the night was the two schools came together and in support of Lebanon student Whit Robertson, who's battling brain cancer, and we raised $1,400 for his family by selling T-shirts and through ticket sales at the game. We also played our homecoming game versus Summit on September 11th, and we defeated Summit 41-3. Homecoming week came with new traditions. We had our first outside pep rally, which was hot but really cool. Not cool like temperature-wise, but it was hot. Which really pepped up our football team and our student body for the game. We had our annual parade through the town, which helped excite our community and our alumni for the game that night. We crowned our king and queen, Kobe Newell and Mary Hannah Flush, by our past king and queen, Dalton Teal and Christina Crowder. Our clubs are growing as well. City Council hosted Club Rush in August, and which boosted our student involvement by displaying our clubs and helping our existing club rosters grow. Currently, we're hosting our canned food drive, which is benefiting our local health center, Brooks House, and Second Harvest Food Bank. Our goal is to collect 50,000 cans. I do want to conclude by inviting all of our board members, if any time that you feel like you want to come visit Lebanon, we're always welcome. I'm always open to showing you around the school. You can shadow any of our students. We're always welcome for you all to come out and see a day at Lebanon.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Anthony. I am the student representative from Wilson Central High School. As Alexis was saying, we both teamed up to help raise money for Whit Robertson. We raised $700, they raised about $700 too also. So we were glad we got to give it to him. Our e-board presented him with the check during halftime at our homecoming, after all the homecoming stuff, so that was pretty cool too. Along with that, this school year has been different. The atmosphere is different. The school feels lighter. People are like participating more. Our pep rallies are better behavior. Our new parking lot rotation that we started is going a lot better than it did the first day. And we're getting in and out, and I think a lot of people are starting to like it and enjoy it. Our biggest event right now is our student council is traveling this weekend to Louisiana. We're going to Houma to host our Southern Convention, and we're running unopposed, so we already get it. So next year, Wilson Central will be hosting Southern Region, which is where all the Southern state councils come, and they basically have like a leadership training. So we ask for a lot of community support in Lebanon that comes around, because it takes a lot to do it. We want to involve every school council that there is and wants to take part. So we support it.
And Simone, you will keep us posted on that as far as how we can help and assist with that? Okay.
I'm Austin Wilson. I'm from Whitetown. We've had an interesting school year too, as most of you from Watertown know. We've got changes in schedule again. First up, I guess I'd like to touch on, we have, of course, a physics major. So that's been a change for us. But I would like to commend both of our administrations for the fluidity, and it's gone off without a bang. I mean, we've done amazingly well with the coach. I could have done it better myself. We've had some I would like to talk about, we've had some changes along with our homecoming traditions. We changed that this year, reduced it down from 3 million girls to 6 girls on the field. We've also changed, we'd like to make big thanks to the voting commission of Wilson County, because they've let us use their voting machines to help elect their student government as well as their homecoming. Another big thing happening, it was supposed to kick off last Friday, but we've had to postpone due to weather. We have a new program at Watertown called BITS, CITZ. It's called Be in the Zone and Stay Off Your Phone. It's a new safe driving thing. So we'd like your support. Come out and support us when we ever have community events. Lastly, I guess I'd like to talk about, we have a new upcoming club called the Gay Straight Alliance at our school. We're the second school in the county. I know Mount Juliet, I think, is going to be better than each, right? Yeah, Wilson Central Service. We look to have we hope to have a good outlook from this. Intention is to be positive for us in the community. We have 10 youth coverage, I guess we all know that. That was lovely. And I guess lastly, Good, cooperate. Enjoy your time off.
Thank you.
I'm Jonas H. I'm from Mount Juliet High School, and over the past month, we've been very active when it comes to special and club-like events. On September 11th, we had homecoming for the MJ football team, and before that, we celebrated with a parade from all the classes. They even got to make a float, and the junior class even had a live band from the students, from the junior class students. So that was really cool to be a part of that. And of course, at the pep rally, we had everyone come over and just celebrate our team and hope we had a big victory, which we did. We beat Wilson Central 30-3. It was pretty good. It was. We had a huge turnout from not only our student section, but from Wilson Central. And it was nice to see both schools have an amazing turnout because the rivalry there has been there for a long time. And yeah, and it was strong, and we were glad to have both sides there supporting both of our teams. Something interesting that came up was the people from UT Knoxville came over to Mount Juliet High School, and we were one of the 3 schools that were invited to allow the people there, including the current Chancellor, Jimmy Cheek, from UT Knoxville, and Margie Nichols, the Vice Chancellor for Communications. And they talked about some of the people, or some of the students at Mount Juliet High School that were applied to UT Knoxville. And we had 7 people that were accepted into that. And we were consistently talked about positive things. We were the best school in the state, and we had the best academic state in Tennessee, and they talked about that. We also had the most early applicants for UT Knoxville than any other high school in the state of Tennessee. And I felt that that was a really proud moment for Mount Juliet High School that we've done. So also we've had big community service projects in Mount Juliet High School. The Interact Club, which is a club we do to help out the community. I'm vice president of that. We do a lot of great things there. During the game, we donated, we got donations for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and they also sold these bracelets that we got. They were there for $10, and all profits went to that fundraising event. We've also gone to Joseph's Storehouse to help give food to people who need it, and a lot of people show up there every month. I mean, most of the club goes there in support of that. And we also went to Charlie Daniels Park not too long ago to a set of events like Pause for the Park, which is an event to give donations to some of the animal shelters. Because we know a lot of the budget cuts on the animal shelters have been a problem. And they're helping out with that. And it was a really cool event.
Chancellor Cheek visited Mount Juliet High School, and because knowing as far as the number of students from Wilson County that go to UT Knoxville, did he mention what the average composite for ACT score as far as going into the freshman class at UT?
I don't think he did.
Well, and because Wilson County is part of it, it's 26.7 on the ACT score, and Mount Juliet was recognized as contributing to that. And that was this year's enduring freshman class.
It was a good thing for even the current chancellor to talk about how good we were doing. The whole school was, and it made us feel good.
It should.
Will they be hosting the chancellor from Alabama soon?
They've not made that request.
Thank you all for being here tonight. You're welcome to stay, but if you want to you're again be dismissed at this time. Start your fall break. All right, appreciate you being here.
We'll take that invitation.
Thank you very much. Report from the director of school.
Oh, you're on.
Thank you for saying that.
And there's some seats up front. If y'all want to come up and sit down, make yourself home. We got a lengthy agenda here, so. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you have a copy of our report, and then I also have some notations delivered to each of you. You will find the funding sheet for September. I I apologize for you getting it late and not being in your original packet, but we did not receive it until Friday from the trustee's office, so we were not able to get it there. So I know that you've not had time to review adequately, but you do have that placed in front of you, and it looks like this, just in case, because I left several things on your packet. And we can go back to that if you have any questions with that. I received confirmation, and let me back up a little bit. We had a conversation last month as far as officers being appointed to TSBA. And one of the things that we had some conversation was having a Federal Relations Network representative, and I think that the conversation back and forth, not knowing whether we were members of NSBA. And I had confirmation from Tammy Grisham, who's the executive director for TSBA, that local boards of education annually select a member of their board as their Federal Relations Network, because we, as being a member of the state organization, are automatically a member of the federal as well. And so with that and the conversation that ensued, the interest of Linda Armstead will represent our Board of Education as the FRN member for 15-16 school year. And it was one that TSBA welcomed the addition from Wilson County. So Ms. Armstead, you will represent us as our FRN rep. Very good. So, and there will be a conference in January. Research. I also want to note, and though we've brought this up earlier, but Wilson County is proud to announce that we have 3 National Merit semifinalists. And the congratulations goes to Mackenzie Eisman of Mount Juliet High School, Taylor Savell from Mount Juliet High School, and Deanna Upchurch, which from Watertown High School. And if you remember, we had a presentation that was somewhat compromised because the technology didn't support her video, and I want to bring her back for that because, again, it's an outstanding presentation. And just as a note, we're talking about the top 1% in the nation when you're looking at those semifinalists, and it recognizes individual students that show exceptional academic ability and potential for success. And you're talking about over 1 million test takers. They narrow it down to 16,000 semifinalists, and so we have 3 students that have met that. I've given you a list of the 2016 graduation ceremonies in front of you, and it's one that we are really finding difficult to find a venue for our schools to hold their graduations. And what we're finding, that we're competing, that if we try to go to Rutherford County to Murphy Center, we're competing with the Rutherford County schools, which, you know, again, we understand that. We are looking at options and have looked at options in Davidson County, but by the time that you are trying to navigate the traffic getting there, we're also having to compete with Williamson County and Davidson County schools because they're looking at the same, whether it's Belmont, Lipscomb, looking at the Civic Center, whatever it might be, and it's also quite expensive. And so we're really trying to find a place that not only will accommodate our 4 high schools, but also make sure that we are not getting so early that we're compromising as far as those last days of instruction. So what you're seeing below as far as that Mount Juliet High and Wilson Central had to schedule their graduations outside of the set graduation in order to find an adequate venue. And then looking at it, you see the adult high school that will graduate at College Hills Church of Christ on June the 3rd. The Adult Learning Center will be Friday, May 27th at Fairview Church in Lebanon, which is the GED program. Lebanon High School, again, for this year, we're looking at a 10 a.m. graduation at Lebanon High School on the football field. We've got Mount Juliet High School on May the 16th, which again, you're looking at the last day of school in 20, so it's a little early, but still the senior exams will have taken place. That will be at MTSU Murphy Center, and we had to really negotiate to get that because again, we were competing with Rutherford County schools. T-balls will be at Five Oaks on May the 20th. Watertown High School will be at Watertown High School on May the 19th. And then Wilson Central High School on Sunday, May the 15th, because it was the last slot available at the Murphy Center at 3 p.m. So wanted to make sure that you are aware of that. And then just a final note there at the bottom, the first 9 weeks ended on October the 2nd. Report cards are scheduled to be distributed on October the 22nd, and students will be on fall break, as we noted tonight already, from October 5th to the 16th. We also want to bring note that state funds are no longer available to us. We use the first week for intercession, and that's something that we are no longer able to offer because of the lack of funds that helped us provide intercession time for our students. And again, it's something, again, it just, if you look at that small footnote there, it's something that we might want to have a conversation in addressing future calendars about a 2-week fall break and not being able to provide that intercession that first week that we have traditionally offered. We are also tentatively looking at, and it's tentatively, but right now looking at a dedication ceremony at Carroll Oakland on November the 8th at 2 p.m. And again, it's tentative, and it's something I'll be a reminder at our next board meeting on November the 2nd. But Ms. Farrell, who's back there, and she's nodding her head with a big smile on her face because she certainly has a school to show off right now.
I was going to say, Mr. Thomason invited me to Carroll Oakland because it's prettier than Watertown.
Okay, the blood's been drawn. Okay, so, and with that, there were some other things that I was going to note, but much of it was addressed at the very beginning of our meeting today. But I do want to reiterate Mr. Burks' seat here in front of me. Again, we had a meeting, and I see Mr. Buchanan and Mr. Lamps are still with us, that with good faith and continued dialogue that we're going to work towards as far as putting Building A at Watertown Elementary into top shape and looking at really retrofitting and fixing the entire building when we say Building A, which was part of our conversation. And in terms as far as that, when that's done, to make sure that we have an open house that talks about exactly what all we've done from top to bottom, and then also address an artist rendition of what that new renovation that was not only approved by this Board of Education, but also by County Commission, and what it will look like as well. And there's one of the things that's before the board tonight is to approve the paint contract that requires a budget amendment. And the question that came, and when I met with the gentleman, as far as, are you going to also paint the gymnasium and the cafeteria? And the response was no, because that will be demolished in preparation for the renovation. So we would be good. And so, Mr. Chair, barring no questions, that concludes my report for this evening.
Matt, for you, Mr. Chairman. As statute of limitations up on my evaluation, Mr. Buchanan was one of the, in my Bible class, the first time I ever taught that program. I hope you don't get to the evaluation.
Is that according to your memory? Do you remember that? I'm putting you on the spot.
Absolutely, I was in several coaches' classes.
Okay, and so would you have given him a good evaluation?
Absolutely.
Carol, your open house, is that's a Sunday?
Yes, Sunday afternoon.
At what time?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
And I will send reminders out about that.
Any other questions for Dr. Wright?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have, on the intercession, Dr. Wright, do you see that as a worthwhile project for us to consider going forward?
Last year was something that was certainly looked at, and while we still had what was referred to as contract dollars from the state, again, anytime you're going to provide as far as tutorials, extra time for students, it's always good. But the participation, as far as what we were seeing, was not where it should be. Again, we have families that see the 2 weeks of fall break as being fall break. And I know that, again, last year was my first year, but we just didn't see the participation that would have, I guess, required lobbying for funds once the state dollars ran out. If it's something that we could require, because again, tutoring and extra help is always necessary. That would be one thing, but that would be something we could certainly have conversation about.
How many students do we have that are in need of that remediation period?
Again, it's going to vary school by school, because what we're seeing now is the effort, particularly with response intervention efforts, that schools are identifying students now, and much of that effort's already taking place during the school day. that I don't want to say it preempted any work or effort that you would have had for intercessions, but that much of that work is being done at school during the school day as part of the response RTI. So that would be something I would want to maybe address it with administrators and see what they're thinking might be. But I would suggest that it's probably something that we're already doing adequately in the course of a school day.
Okay.
And again, you've got administrators that are sitting here that I don't know. Am I misspeaking as far as, okay, I was watching the body language and yours. Okay. I'll hold you accountable for it. I'm sitting there, okay, I see you back there too, Ms. Christian. Okay. But they're doing a great job because that's what they're doing now. And again, when you look at identifying kids as far as that need work where they might have a skill deficit or whatever it might, it's addressed right then. And they're doing a really good job, and I think their efforts were seen as far as when the results came out this year because of that identification.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recommendations from the director of school. Dr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, before you, again, we're looking at some policies that are up for second reading. If you will look at 6.4001, student surveys, the second reading again. This is updated language that was required by legislation that was passed and went into effect July 1st. And if you will see, as far as the existing policy is in black, the new language is in red. And again, that is something that is required that we have approved by this board and will be submitted to the state showing that we've had that approval. So I ask for approval by this board so we can move it forward.
This is second reading.
Yes, ma'am.
So moved.
I've heard the recommendation by Dr. Wright about the approval of student surveys, analysis, and evaluation. Motion by Ms. Armstrong, second by Mr. McNeese. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have spent a little bit of time with this. This is probably one of the things that I get the most calls about or inquiries about. And I'm thinking that I would like to consider, I don't know about the rest of the board feels, but I would like to consider a board level approval on any of those surveys or assessments that are given where we know when they're going to be given ahead of time, review what the objective or the mission of that survey or that assessment is, and then we actually take action on it so that we are informed of exactly what's happening during that period and just add it to the agenda of the board meeting in a month prior or 2 months prior, whatever is appropriate.
How granular would you want to be as far as looking at a survey, whether it's something that's initiated either by a grade level, by a school? I mean, I would think
25,000 foot level, you know, what the test is, who it's going to be applied to, what the mission or the objective is of the test or the survey or the assessment, whatever you want to call it, but just so that we are in the loop, we're conversant when we get the calls from our constituents, and I think it'll help us be more a part of, you know, knowing exactly how things are going in our schools. That would be my suggestion, and I would make that inform on an amendment to the policy.
I would want to know, question, how many surveys are sent out? You're talking about at every grade level?
Across the system.
that's why I was asking how granular, because you're talking about quite a bit. And some of them are very, you know, generic surveys, but there's quite a bit of surveys that go across, whether it's from school, grade levels. And I'm trying to think, as far as particularly the new language, that was part of what was so unique about why the state rewrote and required districts to update as far as particularly with parent notification, because they felt that that was something that was not always transparent and clear to parents as far as when their children were surveyed, or even having parents be given the opportunity to see what it was that they were being surveyed. So I guess that's why I'm asking the question for clarification.
Maybe we could just, instead of making it official, if we know that you want to come up and look at surveys, that you could come up and look at surveys anytime that are being given, or she could just alert us these surveys are being given, instead of requiring the board to approve it. Is that what you're asking for, approve? We would hope that she would, and the staff would be able to filter through that.
Well, it might be something if you look at, and again, for the public, let me read this as far as some of the new language. Prior to the dissemination of a survey, analysis, or evaluation to students, parents, guardians shall be notified of their ability to review the materials. Such notification shall include information indicating the purpose of the survey, analysis, or evaluation, as well as who will have access to the results. Following such notification and prior to the administration of the survey, analysis, or evaluation, parents, guardians may opt their child out of participation. The director of schools shall develop procedures for granting such parental requests and to implement the other provisions of this policy. And maybe under footnote 2, again, you've got that leeway with looking at TCA code as far as that maybe that could be footnoted in some way as far as adding, as far as an awareness for the board. And I'm not quite sure when you said 25,000 feet. Again, I don't want to certainly not embellish, but there's quite a few surveys, and some of it might be even just something that's being initiated out of student council, but there's quite a bit when you look at the survey. But that piece there, it says dissemination of a survey, analysis, or evaluation to students is what the state's requiring that we have added to our policy.
I think if we're asking for private or sensitive information from our students and our parents, that we should know.
Oh, I agree.
And we should have at least involvement in that. Information is so easily hijacked anymore. There are people make a great living at stealing information and selling it. And I know how hard it is to protect against that. You know, there's companies spend billions and billions of dollars a year on security programmers and analysts and to try to stop that. And I don't want our system to be victim of that. And this is very personal information. And I think it's, as we migrate into a technology world, I think we have to think a little differently. And we have to start thinking about privacy and protection of that sensitive information. Because, you know, once it gets out, the whole world has it in a millisecond.
Well, it is important, and very important. I don't disagree with that, but even if we look at it and approve it, it doesn't ensure that it wouldn't be, something would happen, it just wouldn't happen.
No, but we might say, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that survey because it's revealing too much sensitive information, whereas in today's world, we don't have that opportunity.
But parents have the ability to opt out to once they are notified that the survey, and that was, again, that was very important that the state included that language, because that was a reaction to, as you said, that you received a lot of phone calls or conversation, and this is the legislator's reaction to that very thing, that not only parents being notified as far as the purpose of the survey or the analysis or the evaluation, but that they can also opt their child out of participating in it as well.
So how many, like, surveys and analysis and evaluations are we talking about, possibly? That would be a large number, would it not? I mean, how would you manage that?
If it's private or personal or sensitive information that's being asked for, then we should have involvement. If it's what you want to do next week when you go out on fall break, I don't think that has anything to do with our involvement. But if it's...
We'd have to qualify it, because again, when you're talking about just the volume, whether it's student government, whether it's PTO, whatever it might be, there's a lot of information that's sent out. But much of that is going to parents to be a participant. And you know, Ms. Cochran, do you have any idea as far as more just generally speaking, as far as how do you begin to say?
I couldn't begin to say the number of surveys that we get. We require, even the ACT, students take a survey before they take the ACT. and the exploring the plan, there's a survey portion that they have to participate in before they take the assessment. So I couldn't even begin to tell you the number.
Mr. Karen, in the bottom line, parents are gonna be notified, and parents have the opportunity for their children to opt out of these things.
And that's
Isn't that pretty much what it boils down to, that they're gonna know and they're gonna be able to ask their questions and they'll be able to.
We're required,
opt out.
yes, we're required to notify parents.
Okay.
For the purpose of keeping this meeting moving along, Dr. Wright, would it be, do we have to vote on this tonight? Can we?
The state is waiting for that, as a district, that we have approved this, and in fact, Joanne Collins is one that, again, she has sent me a notice wanting to see if the board has acted on this. And that's not to say that we can't go back and amend it, but this is something I do need to submit to the state,
Okay. All right.
that we're in compliance.
No, Dr. Wright, do you approve all of these before they go to the students?
Well, again, it depends on the surveys and what it might be, as far as which Ms. Coughlin was making reference to ACT. No, I don't approve those.
There's so much information there already that they cannot ask for. I don't know if there's anything else on there that we can ask them, real sensitive data.
And then again, that was a result of parents' concerns as far as what they believe, that whether it was a textbook publishing company to some of the, some organizations that were noted as far as asking for that sensitive information and where it was going, just as Mr. Weathers was referring to. So again, this was a policy that the state is requiring that we have just for those very protections.
Well, if we have this and we see that it's working or not working, then perhaps we can come back and review it again at some point.
I'll
If you
withdraw my-
continue to get phone calls about problems with surveys, then perhaps we may need to go back and amend it at that point.
I'll withdraw my motion to amend, Mr. Chairman, but I think I want it to be on the record that this is something that we absolutely have to consider for the future. If we're going to live in a technology world, we have to act accordingly, and protecting sensitive information and allowing anybody to come in and do a survey, I think we have to be much more guarded with in the future. And maybe restrict the number of surveys, because that takes away instructional time.
And you just triggered a thought, Mr. Weathers, and this goes back to what Mr. McNeese had just asked me as well. Now, we will get a number of requests that, as far as whether it's working on a dissertation or whatever it might be, asking permission to either evaluate or provide a survey or something. That does come to me, and if there is no educational merit to it and they have not gone through the proper IRB process through the university, I've told them no. And so that is a stopgap right there, and that is something I can think of quite a few that I've already since the beginning of the school year that we're not going to be able to even begin to say.
I couldn't begin to say the number of surveys that we did. We require, even the ACT, students take a survey before they take the ACT. And the exploring the plan, there's a survey portion that they have to participate in before they take the assessment. So I couldn't even begin to tell you the number.
Mr. Karen, in the bottom line, parents are going to be notified, and parents have the opportunity for their children to opt out of these things.
And that's the
Isn't that pretty much what it boils down to, that they're going to know and they're going to be able to ask their questions and they'll be able to.
We're required, yes, we're required to notify parents.
Okay.
For the purpose of keeping this meeting moving along, Dr. Wright, would it be, do we have to vote on this tonight? Can we?
The state is waiting for that, as a district, that we have approved this, and in fact, Joanne Collins is one that, again, she has sent me a notice wanting to see if the board has acted on this. And that's not to say that we can't go back and amend it, but this is something I do need to submit to the state,
Okay. All right.
that we're in compliance.
No, Dr. Wright, do you approve all of these before they go to the students?
Well, again, it depends on the surveys and what it might be, as far as which Ms. Coughlin was making reference to ACT. No, I don't approve those.
There's so much information there already that they cannot ask for. I don't know if there's anything else on there that we can ask them, real sensitive data.
And so again, that was a result of parents' concerns as far as what they believe that whether it was a textbook publishing company to some of the, some organizations that you know, were noted as far as asking for that sensitive information and where it was going, just as Mr. Weathers was referring to. So again, this was a policy that the state is requiring that we have just for those very protections.
Well, if we have this and we see that it's working or not working, then perhaps we can come back and review it again at some point.
I'll
If you
withdraw
continue to
my,
get calls about problems with surveys, then perhaps we may need to go back and amend it at that point.
I'll withdraw my motion to amend, Mr. Chairman, but I think it needs, I want it to be on the record that this is something that we absolutely have to consider for the future. If we're going to live in a technology world, we have to act accordingly, and protecting sensitive information and allowing anybody to come in and do a survey, I think we have to be much more guarded with in the future. And maybe restrict the number of surveys because that takes away instructional time.
And you just triggered a thought, Mr. Weathers, and this goes back to what Mr. McNeese had just asked me as well. Now, we will get a number of requests that, as far as whether it's working on a dissertation or whatever it might be, asking permission to either evaluate or provide a survey or something. That does come to me, and if there is no educational merit to it and they have not gone through the proper IRB process through the university, I've told them no. And so that is a stopgap right there, and that is something I can think of quite a few that I've already since the beginning of the school year that we're not going to be a research base for someone to conduct.
Yeah, anything that interferes with instructional time, I think
I can assure you that.
I'll have Crawford, please.
Call the question. All in favor of Mr. Withers has withdrawn his motion. All right, we make the original motion, the recommendation for the record, we approve policy number 6.4001. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Let it show pass 4-1. Also, we need to have a motion to accept the director's report. I forgot to do that a while ago. All right, motion by Mr. McNeese, we accept the director's report, the second by Mr. Robinson. All in favor of accepting the Dr. Wright's report, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let it show pass unanimous. Next, Dr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have an additional policy. It's on second reading. It was originally updated to include the new language. And if you look on the second page, line 15, that now that we've moved to Tennessee Ready, student scores on the Tennessee Ready and or the Tennessee Comprehensive Assessment Program. So Tennessee Ready was the update to the new language. However, the substantive language change here is that we are asking for approval to move as far as the percentage of what the test counts, whether it's looking at grades 3 through 8 or end of course exams at the high school, and reducing it to 15% as counted towards a student's final grade. We had taken the position prior to that of 20% with grades 3 through 8 and 25% in high school. And I personally, and I will put a personal opinion, I think that it was too high and too punitive. And so the lowest that the state will allow us is 15%, and I'm asking for this board's approval to accept that.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Mr. McNeese. Any discussion?
Is that going to be a permanent situation, Dr. Wright, or is that until they get the process refined or defined and go back to that level?
As far as I'm concerned, it would be a permanent process unless they go back and change legislation where that would even be counted towards a student's final grade. The high schools have been under that for quite a few years, and then the grades 3 through 8 were put in there several years ago because of the impact on looking at particularly evaluation of teachers. And again, you still, as using the legislative term, skin in the game, but 20% for grades 3 through 8 was too high, and 15% becomes one that, again, students need to know the seriousness of it, so they take it, you know, as something to show us what their competency might be. So as far as I know, it's there to remain because it's part of the code, the language.
Is it pretty settled in the legislature?
As far as I know, yes, sir. And this was the first year that once that gave us some latitude that we could make that adjustment. The other caveat to that too, that is also that if scores are not returned in a timely fashion, that we don't use this. And so again, that is another thing that becomes very important, that if we don't have our scores returned, then this doesn't count, but it also is taken into note as far as that it's no impact on the teachers as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Been no further discussion. All in favor of 4.600 grading system, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That shall pass unanimously. Dr. Wright?
Next policy for your review is, this is a first reading. It's on student records. One that not only is it updated, but it's also with some changes that were made that we need to make sure that we are in compliance. On page 1, line 17, just to bring it as far as the first change, when a student transfer and his or her records are requested from a school outside the county, copies of the student's records, including student's discipline records, and that's the part that I want to underscore, should be sent to the transfer school. And that's something that, even though that might have been an expectation, it was not always followed, particularly for schools outside of the district. And so this was something that the state found important enough that to make sure that that was in policy. If you will look at line 24 and 25 on that first page, it goes in much to what we were just discussing. All records shall be remitted in accordance with the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. It's just another reminder that we follow FERPA guidelines and regulations, that student records shall be confidential, and we need to have that as a reminder. The next language addition to this is the access to student records. This becomes really important because if you look on line 30, a legitimate educational interest is the official's need to know information in order to, and it goes on to the next page, and this is quite lengthy, and I'll have you read through that as far as perform required administrative tasks, to perform a supervisory instructional task. All that to say that people cannot just go in and look at student records to satisfy what they might think they knew. That has to have a purpose behind it, and you're looking at people that will have to sign off, and that becomes very important. If you look at line 6 on page 2, authorized school officials may release information from or permit access to a student's education record without the parent or eligible student's prior written notice in the following instances. And if you look, there's a judicial order or a lawfully issued subpoena. The school system will make a reasonable effort to notify the student's parents or the eligible student before making a disclosure. And then, again, you have the list there that, again, only acceptable reasons. And something that, again, we have to be reminded that a student becomes an eligible student when he or she reaches the age of 18 or enrolls in a post-secondary school, at which time all the above rights becomes the student rights at age 18. And that does become disconcerting to some parents that students have gained that right at age 18. So again, this is a lot of language, but again, it's about privacy. It's talking about very specifically as far as what constitutes a legitimate educational interest, and one that we need, again, to be in compliance and getting our policy updated. First reading.
Heard the recommendation of the director on policy number 6.600. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Ms. Armstrong. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, let it show that pass unanimously. Dr. Wright.
Your next policy is also a first reading. This is one that is a legislative update. It's 6.405 on medicines, and the heading also has an addition on individual health plans. If you will look at page 3 of the policy, not only with the heading change, but there is language that more or less defines an individualized health care plan. An IHP under this section shall be developed by a registered nurse in collaboration with the family, student's health care provider, and school personnel for the management of pancreatic insufficiency or cystic fibrosis while in school, participating in school-sponsored activities, and in transit to and from school-sponsored activities. The piece that I want to bring to your attention, the IHP shall be child-specific and with written authorization from the health care provider and parent. And a student with pancreatic insufficiency or cystic fibrosis shall be allowed to carry and self-administer prescribed pancreatic enzymes. And so this language, again, that's been legislated, but then it's also one that in conference with our Donna Lawson, our health supervisor, our nurse supervisor, made us aware that this had to be in place. So I'm asking for approval on first reading.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Ms. Armstead. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of 6.405, individual health care plans, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. Dr. Wright.
Okay, the next one on foreign exchange students is our first reading. This was based on a board member, Mr. Weathers' recommendation that I come back to this board with language updating the changes that need to be made. I brought to your attention last month as far as some situations that we had that were occurring with some of the foreign exchange programs, bringing students in without getting prior approval, not only from the board, but also from the receiving school. And we had one woman that was quite angry because she had 30 students in transit and did not have a school. And she had checked with surrounding districts, they did not have room, and she decided that we had 2 high schools that still had a couple of slots available. And we denied her, and when she finally, acknowledged that, well, I've got 30 students headed this way, and that emergency on her part was not an emergency for us. But again, we've had several situations that have emerged, and so if you'll look on page 1, many of the strikeouts that you'll see is simply because that language no longer applies. But we did add, and again, Mr. Weathers asked that this be brought back before this board. If you look at line 1, 2, and 3, any foreign student is eligible for acceptance into the foreign exchange student program, provided he or she is participating through any agency endorsed by the Councils on Standards for International Travel, which is CSIE, and which is recognized by any participating high school, and is sponsored by a Wilson County family, not an individual or an organization, because that's something that we do not have, I guess, access or background knowledge. And we've had a couple of situations, just for the benefit of the audience, where we've had some students that were not placed with some families that wanted to take responsibility and had to send them back in mid-year. And that's something that just should not happen. So we've changed the language to Wilson County family. And then before approval by the board, the exchange program representative must make written application on behalf of the student to the local school system serving the host family. No foreign exchange student shall be brought into the United States by a sponsor unless he or she has been accepted in writing as a student by the director of schools, designee of the school in which he is to be enrolled. And then we've added this: schools that are subject to overcrowded conditions can elect not to accept exchange students. And that's the situation particularly that we have at 3 out of our 4 high schools. And then no more than 4 exchange students shall be placed in one school, which we've had that, but we just had foreign students in that. We need to qualify that as exchange students and not foreign students because we have a number of students that could be identified. So I'm asking for approval on first reading, again, as far as having greater clarification in qualifying our expectations for foreign exchange students.
You've heard the recommendation of the director on policy number 6.502, foreign exchange students. Do I hear a motion?
So.
Motion by Mr. Withers, I hear a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Armstead. Any discussion? Being no discussion, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let it show the pass unanimously.
Thank you. Next, for looking for approval is donation of equipment from Wilson County Schools to Lebanon Special School District. If you'll see the supporting document that is behind that, again, this is an agreement that we're asking approval. We have strength and conditioning equipment as far as when we're looking at Carroll Oakland, when we're looking at Tucker's Crossroads, when we're looking at Southside, our 3 middle schools. And this is something that when we look at Lebanon Special School District, 80% of their kids coming out of their middle schools attend Lebanon High School. And so what we're asking as far as approval by this board to donate equipment to the special school district on behalf of kids that will eventually become our students.
You hear a motion, a recommendation from Dr. Wright about donation of equipment to Lebanon Special School District. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I think I've been told that this has not been approved before, so.
Well, we don't have a discussion format yet, but I wondered about it.
Would you like to make a motion for the purpose of the discussion?
I guess. Okay.
We have a motion by Ms. Armstrong for the purpose of discussion. Do I hear a second to that for the purpose of discussion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Second, sir, discussion. All right, now the floor is open for discussion. All right. Now, I assume that this is new equipment? Old equipment that came from out of the old Lebanon High
Can
School?
we have Mr. Whitlock address the board on that, or would you?
You certainly can. And Chuck, if you'd like to.
He's back there nodding his head, so I think that would.
Yes, sir.
Is this stuff that was left over from the old Lebanon High School?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. Primarily a couple of bench press machines and a couple of squat racks.
Okay.
So is that all?
Yes. Probably grand total of a dozen, maybe 10 to 12 pieces of equipment. Most of it, well, all of it needs some degree of repair, whether it be refinishing, redoing the padding.
My question was there no other school in our district that would benefit from that?
That, we're in pretty good shape.
No.
Are we not?
This came before the board, went before Chuck.
Yes, sir.
And I know there was one middle school that went over there to Lebanon, identify some items that they needed, tagged it as such. And I believe Mr. Fox and Mr. Hall was the president. They tagged them to be, and Mr. Fox said he would deliver them to that middle school, and it never happened.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, that's why, yeah, okay. So I'm not, at this point, interested in giving a special school district that material until our middle schools has an opportunity to go back through it again.
I've talked to Mr. Graw, who does a wonderful job with Mount Jude Middle. He's not specifically about that, but he's actually said to me that he feels like he has everything he needs. Because basically what he has is what was left from the high school. Now,
He's been over there and he's tagged some of it, and it was never delivered to that particular school.
they never came up in a conversation with Mr. Graw.
When was that? Was that last year or 2 years
Last
ago?
year. Last year, I believe. It could have been 2 years ago, right? You get by pretty quick.
Mr. McNeese, would it be okay if I asked Mr. Whitlock to investigate that for us, to see if that, what happened and why it was not
I just
delivered?
assume Curtis is coaching football. He does not have a fall break, so I can get a hold of him in the morning. Yes.
Would you be okay with that?
We can bring it back up the next board meeting.
Oh, that's what I meant, as
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
But do
As
you
long as
care?
our schools have an opportunity, then I'm okay with it.
Oh, absolutely, that's why I mentioned the schools, so I agree.
I'm not aware of anything that was supposed to have gone to any other school, but I do know that Lebanon High School got what they wanted from that old weight room over there. And I think Carroll Oakland and Tucker's Crossroads and specifically got what they wanted out of there as far as
South side.
South side. I want to say south side, but I wasn't sure about those. But for the purpose of, for anybody that doesn't know, Carroll Oakland and Tucker's Crossroads have a really nice weight room now in their buildings. So this stuff with weights and things. So I don't know, but it's beyond me. And and we're in the discussion stage now, so we're not gonna vote on this tonight. But it's beyond me why that a system is financially stable as the 10th district is why they would want our stuff that's probably not very good. Because if it was any good, it would have gone to Lebanon the first trip around. And now after everybody else has picked through it, I just can't understand it. And I realize and I know that the lifeblood of Lebanon High School athletics comes through the 10th district for the most part. I understand that probably better than anybody in this room. But it just amazes me that they won't step up and they won't provide the adequate stuff that their athletes need for it. Now, I understood that Winfrey Bryant got a grant to build them a weight room and furnish their weight room. But I can't understand that. And I know the guys that are on the 10th District School Board, and they're all good people. But I just can't imagine them not taking that, stepping out there and doing it. Any other discussion? I'm gonna get off that
their fund
subject.
balance, Mr. Chairman.
Sir?
I wish we had their fund balance.
I
We
do
provided
too.
some audience.
Okay. Any other discussion? If no further discussion, all in favor of the donation of equipment to the Lebanon Special School District, vote aye. All opposed, vote no.
No.
Let it show that it passed unanimously. The
Fail.
vote no.
Fail.
It failed. It failed. It failed unanimously. I mean, I just don't understand.
I learned my lesson.
No, that shouldn't be an issue, Dr. Wright. You shouldn't have been put in that position. Bring it over here. But my good friend, Scott Benson and them, they need to step up. You know, when it comes to that.
Okay, the next order of business. I'm asking for approval of the fixed assets surplus list for 2015-16, and again, you've got quite a packet there as far as what we have added to that surplus list. So I'm asking for approval.
You heard the recommendation of the director on the fixed surplus list.
And please note that the surplus auction will be held in early November.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Robinson.
Second.
There, second by Mr. Withers. Any discussion on this?
The only discussion that I had was like, there's so much listed on some of these items, and I just, and some of the schools listed what was wrong, that they were in disrepair or broken or whatever, but some of the things just, and it just may be an over, it not needed, maybe just the curriculum changes or whatever happens. So is there anybody else, is what I was concerned about from in the school system that could use any of that, other equipment, excess equipment, surplus equipment? Are the other schools, do they get to go out and look and say, we've got, or to see these lists and check to see if there's anything that they could utilize? I remember when I was in the classroom, I wondered,
Well, the question that I asked though is, was there anything on the list as far as, because again, you have to look at age, you have to look as far as even some of the things that they're not even used anymore. And the thing I wondered, what is a value that might bring something at the surplus auction? And the thing that came up were the buses, because those are something that can be, I mean, and again, if any of you have traveled to Central or South America, you will see American school buses being used for mass transit, and that
They
tends to
don't
be.
cut them off at 175,000 miles.
No, you'll see them with
They run
tents
the
and
wheels
palm
come
trees. So, but that was the question. But that's the question I asked, much like you, as far as what's a value in that we would see any sales response, and the response was the buses.
that was the discussion I had.
You heard the recommendation of the director, second by Mr. Robinson. Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Ms. Armstead. No further discussion. I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor of passing request to surplus property, Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show pass unanimously. Okay,
Next, for your approval, I'm asking for you to look at the fixed assets missing list for 2014-2015. I would suggest that again, and I'm sure that you've looked at this, that it's a far different picture than what was presented to you last year at this time. Because not only was it addressed as something being very serious, but the idea that we will keep an accurate current inventory. So I'm asking for approval on the fixed asset missing list. Second.
motion by Mr. Willis. All right. A motion by Mr. Withers, a second there by Sir Cecil Creek. How many of y'all even remember him?
I remember.
All right. A late Saturday night, guys.
Yes, sir.
Develop our football team.
Who seconded that? Second by Ms. Artis. Any discussion?
Just
I would
one comment.
Just one
I would
comment.
just like to say thank you, Dr. Wright. Please pass that on to all the rest of the.
I will.
Administration. It can be done.
Yes, and I mean, it was something that was very stressful last year, created a lot of angst. But again, that's something that we not only need to be good stewards, but we need to keep up with the inventory, and they did a very good job with it.
It just makes mention that the schools have done a great job of doing that. And I agree. But that statement makes it look like it's all the schools' fault last year, to me. And a lot of it was our accounting and technology department, when they picked something up and brought it back, it never got transferred out.
And I hope it didn't, not to imply it was just schools, but there was a lot of protocols put in place from even other departments, Mr. McNeese. You're exactly right. But again, protocols, how the process works, and I think it made a huge difference as far as making sure that we're accountable and keeping a good inventory.
And I don't mean to throw the technology people under the bus, but, I mean, I will some of them.
You just backed up over.
I did. But, I mean, we didn't have the procedures in place.
Yeah. But we do now. We do now. And it's one, again, that,
Remember, that's the brain on that.
Do what now?
That's the brain.
Oh, we're in trouble.
All right, all in favor of the, whatever it was. Yeah, Sir Cecil. Fix the fist accent. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show pass unanimously. Dr. Wright, keep this thing rolling.
okay, next for your approval, it's been brought to us as far as a request for an additional food service vehicle by the Director of Food Services, Melody Turner, and she's asking for the purchase. It's an Impala vehicle, and again, getting it as, again, quoting as close to zero as possible. The implications, and I think that there was a couple of you that even asked, what are the implications when you start looking at these savings? And if you look on the very end, as far as the possibility that you might have to carry 2 cards instead of 1. But with that, if you'll also look at the very end of your packet, if you have that with you, as far as that there's probably not a pharmacy that's not listed, that becomes the bigger question that's asked as far as where can this be used. So not only asking for approval of this, but if there's any questions specifically, because much of the conversation and the discussion took place with Mr. Hall, and so if there's any additional questions that he could possibly answer for you. But the thing is, you're talking about $447,000 in savings. You're talking about implications being that there might be the possibility of having to carry 2 cards instead of 1, and you've got access to just about every pharmacy, and some that I did not even knew that existed. So if there's any questions for more detail, Mr. Hall can answer that for you.
You've heard the recommendation of the Director about the Pharmacy Benefit Management Service Agreement. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McNeese. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Withers. Any discussion at this time?
Just a quick question for Mr. Jennings, if he's had a chance to review the contract and give your blessing to it.
I am.
So you're good with it?
As much as I understand about insurance.
Okay.
Uh-oh, we're good.
Hmm?
This savings of $447,000. Is that to the people that use the program, the teachers, or
In the end,
employees?
it's the savings to the insurance plans, which keeps you from having to raise rates later on down the road. So it's a savings to the insurance plan. The employees won't see any difference than what they're currently doing when they go to the pharmacy. But we
Same
will-
price,
but the
same
plan-
medicine?
but the plan will generate that much more money in savings.
Is it like streamlining their plan? how they're
No,
running
it's,
it?
Wells Fargo's determined a better pricing model than the insurance game had, and that's why we're generating these savings. If you looked at their proposal or their report.
Can we reduce our plan to our teachers with this amount of savings?
I wouldn't recommend that at this time because
Okay.
costs are going to go up.
Or what?
Costs will go up.
Any other more discussion? Being no further discussion, I assume you're ready to vote. We have a motion there by Mr. McNeese, second by Mr. Withers. All in favor of the pharmacy consultant. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They show passed unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I request a 5-minute recess.
Go, 5-minute recess, all right. 5-minute recess, we'll be back in session in 25 minutes after. What's the next item? We have approved amended plan changes, Dr. Wright.
And you see,
Hey, Mr. Stafford. Y'all leave?
No,
We
I
just
wouldn't
get
be that satisfied.
Mr. Chair, I'm asking for recommendation to amend the plan language to change the definition of spouse to meet the new federal rulings. Again, we have to be in compliance with the federal law, dropping reference to the opposite sex. And if you'll notice, again, the language there as far as moving to legal spouse. And again, that note effective June 26, 2015. And again, I'm asking for approval from this board so that we are in compliance.
Fine with the federal government, I'll make a motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
motion by Mr. McNeese, second by Ms. Armstead.
Is this a federal mandate, Dr. Wright?
Yes, sir, and if you'll look on the first page as far as the letter that came from our plan manager, on June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court made a decision that states must license same-sex marriage and recognize same-sex marriage as lawfully licensed and performed out of state. For employee benefit purposes, and again, I'm reading the ruling states, same-sex couples are legally entitled to the same benefits under federal law as all other married couples. Though self-funded plans are treated differently, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, takes the position that discrimination against lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender employees is forbidden as sex discrimination by Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so again, to be in compliance with that the language change, again, moving it and replacing it with legal spouse.
You all have heard the recommendation.
I got another question for Dr. Wright.
Okay, yes, sir.
What is the penalty if we do not do this?
I don't know that I can answer that. Mr. Jennings,
Probably a possible lawsuit for discrimination.
and particularly coming under Title VII, that would be something that they would file a claim.
Is board for, or jail for a board secretary?
Mr. Hall's got a comment, Mr. Chairman.
One other comment too, your plan amendment is what your reinsurance company goes with, and your plan has to be in compliance with federal law for that policy. So when we have that claim that hits $150,000 more dollars, then your reinsurance company will look to your plan document to make sure it's in compliance with law, so you don't want to jeopardize your reinsurance policy. And you don't want to get into common law type situations where this is a strict, very strict definition of the marriage license.
Since we're at the discussion stage, and we have had 2 or 3 hot button issues tonight, A lot of emotions right now. And in this one right here is certainly one of those kind of issues. I know, once again, that we probably don't have any choice of what we're doing here as far as complying with the law. But I don't know that, I would just like to say that, go on record, that personally, I don't agree with this. We've got to do what we got to do to perform with the law. But I don't know whether or not it would be appropriate or whether we could even do this with Mr. Jennings or not. But, you know, I'd like to say that this is certainly not a reflection on how the Russell County Board of Education feels towards the community. Is that something we could do?
I think you just said it.
Okay. I don't know that I said it in the form of a motion, but I mean, I don't know what my other colleagues here feel, how they feel about that. That's just my personal opinion. So.
Well, and you know, I know how everybody feels. But I don't know that you want to put that in the form of a motion, because if we get sued somewhere down the road by a same-sex couple or a LGBT student, and they come in and we defend on, hey, we've done everything we can, you know, we followed the law, but then they bring up this motion that we really didn't want to, we're going to have to answer for that.
That's why I'm asking. That's why I ask. I don't know that we need to put it in the form of a motion, but I'm just saying, you know, personally, I don't agree with it. I know something that we got to do. Sure. We do things here all the time that I may not always agree with, but I'm still compelled tonight to say that how I feel about that.
Well, I go back to San Francisco where they don't abide by the federal guidelines. A person gets killed because of it, and what happens to that situation? Nothing.
I don't represent San Francisco. I have to go in the federal
I
court
thought
with
you
y'all.
was a federal judge, a federal law.
I can be if the money's right, but and I'm not licensed in California.
Well, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Mr. Chairman. If you don't like the game, you change the play. So it's up to us, if you don't like the game, to change the play.
That's correct.
But I do enjoy visiting San Francisco, but I've never worn a flower in my hair when I went there. But there are things in San Francisco.
There's probably a reason right now.
There's things in San Francisco I enjoy.
You get the same problem there that I do, Mr. Chairman.
Well, back when I was visiting San Francisco, I had some hair. Keep us moving right along. All in favor of the ESP changing the planned agreement, vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Vote no. I'll let it show the pass 4-1 with Mr. McNeese.
So they're gonna sue Wayne.
I appreciate that.
Dr. Button, go ahead.
It's not like
They can get blood out of turnip. Go ahead.
either, Wayne.
Pardon me?
It's not as if we are really wanting to do anything that would conflict with our personal issues. It's not a personal issue, it has to be.
I understand that we have to do it because of insurance, but
We have to support it.
Okay.
at some point we have to make a stand.
Dr. Wright.
Let me just, I'm gonna add something, we've added these other things, because here's my only thought process on this whole deal. We're complying with federal law, and it's a no-win situation for the board representing this school system legally, financially. Is that how you, I mean, the vote's over, it's 4-1, there's no situation.
Let me make it a little easier for you, and you can blame it on me if you want to.
I'm not gonna blame it on anybody.
But no, I'm talking about, you take an oath to follow the law. That's the law. Now, there's a big issue about that in Kentucky, I know. But you take an oath to follow the law.
Sherry, you ready for the next?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, before this board, I have a request as far as I'm asking for approval for a proposed administrative pay plan as written. If you'll note on your insert in your pay, back prior to the school year and looking at July 1st, I asked for a request as far as high school principal pay of enrollment over 1,500. Have now looked at this as far as looking to the future as far as enrollment at 1,200, but also looking that we did not include at the time because much of it waiting to see how the budget would play out. But I'm asking for approval to look at middle school principals that have an enrollment of over 1,200 with an increase of $5,000, and also looking for elementary school principals that are hitting enrollment over 1,000 of a $5,000 increase. Updating numbers, Mount Juliet Middle School is well over the 1,200 with over 1,500 students. West Wilson Middle School right now is sitting at 1,162, but we're still enrolling students, so that's something that could change. And then looking at Rutland Elementary, which is the only elementary school that right now that we have that is closing in, and then found out just within the last week that they went from 988, went up to 988, including by adding the 39 pre-K students, their enrollment's at 1,027. And in talking to Ms. York, she has 9 students that will be enrolling after fall break, which will be 1036. So I'm asking for an adjustment to the original pay plan that I brought to you this summer by allowing consideration for middle school principals going over 1,200 and for elementary principals going over 1,000.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion by Mr. Withers, second by Mr. McNeese. Ms. Armstead also, did you second that? Okay.
That's correct.
Call for, any discussion?
This is not in opposition to the plan, but we've done this twice now since we passed the budget.
Twice.
Twice.
Okay.
Once at the high school level, and now with these.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
When we do things like this on much of a scale as this is, affecting as many positions as, that are affected within this, should we do this? Shouldn't a plan be made and discussed during the budget process as we develop our budget rather than the middle of a budget year? That's all I got to say. That's my opinion. That's when we should do it. I don't know why we.
May I provide a response, Mr. Robinson?
Go ahead, I know that.
Again, as far as the critical need at the time, being the high schools, particularly with 3 of them, approaching 2,000, one going over 2,000, that was a critical need. I will say that this was something that as we were going through the budget process internally, I had brought up, but there was the assurance that needing to look at where we stood in the budget. It didn't seem prudent at the time to pursue the addition with the middle and the elementary. And I will say that I was pretty tenacious and diligent as far as bugging, for lack of a better term, Mr. Hall, as far as not losing sight of this, because again, as we continue to grow, the concerns being that what the constraints and looking at what our administrators are dealing with that 5 years ago would not have been put on their plate. And again, to make sure that we are also competitive with surrounding districts, that this became an important issue. So again, asking for that approval.
Well, my turn. Again, don't you think that it's more appropriate when you're addressing this many positions that our planning should be, we should be able to look at these things as we develop our process so we don't have to affect our overall budget when we make these kind of decisions. That, trying to get, we're front end of a budget year, and I just think that's when we should do things on this scale.
I agree with Mr. Robinson, most sincerely.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the recommendation of the director on the compensation for principals. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. All right, Dr. Lane.
Okay, next, for your consideration and approval, asking for a budget amendment as far as to address board compensation as written. If you will look, again, you have a memo addressing this, that the county commission adjusted their compensation rate during the August 2015 budget approval process. They doubled the compensation from $400 a month to $800 a month. Pursuant to the County Commission Resolution 611-10, the compensation of the school board is to be set at the same rate as county commissioners. And so therefore, you've got an attached budget amendment that's being recommended to cover your new compensation rate for county commission. The question's been asked whether you could vote yea or nay on this. What you must recognize here is that what you are approving is the budget amendment to accommodate this pay increase or this compensation rate. County Commission has the ability to set that rate, which also impacts you. So what you need to do is to more or less approve the budget amendment because the increase in salary has already been set.
You heard the recommendation of the director that we approve a budget amendment, I think, am I reading this correctly, out of line item 44210 into line item 72,310, 71,100. Is that correct?
You're increasing the revenue side and the
Yes.
expenditure side.
Okay.
And it's all spelled out again. You have that attached in your packet.
All right. All in favor of approving the budget amendment, vote aye. Oh, any discussion? Do I hear a motion? I got ahead here. I'm trying to get on. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the budget amendment?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Robinson. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Armstead. Any discussion? Being no discussion, I assume we're all ready to vote on the budget amendment. All in favor of the budget amendment, vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Let it show that it passed 4-1 with Mr. Withers voting no. All right, Dr. Lane.
I'm asking for approval of the budget amendment 2016-02 for additional land purchase for Tucker's Crossroads Elementary. There are 5 acres there that are behind the school that are necessary as far as for us not only to look at the looping road, also to accommodate a new sewer system, and also for relocation of the playground, which will be displaced with the renovation that's planned for Tucker's Crossroads. Again, you've got the packet of information there. It'll be noted that as far as what is asked beyond what the appraisal price, the appraisal came in at $186,000. What is being asked is $220,000. That takes into account not only the timber that's on the land, but also moving expenses. And so, again, this is something that is necessary to move forward with the Tucker's Crossroads project and asking for your approval.
You heard the recommendation of the director to buy this additional land there. Right, if you're looking at the school, ladies and gentlemen of the board, it's the property to the north of the school, back there behind where the I guess it's a sewer filter plant is. Playground in that area back in there. So the addition that we approved for Tucker's Crossroads will take up that space back there. The road that will be going around will take up some of that space too.
Sewer system too, accommodate sewer system too.
Yes, sir.
When that part of it?
Yes.
Sewer system
Yes.
and relocation of the playground.
Yes, it will.
Mr. Chairman, on the contract, there's one thing that needs to be added. There's a provision in there, and I mentioned it to Mr. Hall in paragraph 14. I believe it is about us holding the other party harmless from against any liability if we got sued by a real estate agent. That's not likely, but we're not allowed to hold anybody harmless under Tennessee law. So we'll have to put in there to the extent allowed by Tennessee law. We can fix that. But I just wanted to call, and it'll be in these other contracts as well. We'll need to fix that.
Yes, sir. You've heard the recommendation of the director. Do I hear a motion?
motion to carry to discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Withers. I hear a second. Second by Ms. Armstrong. All right, call for discussion.
Maybe I'm having a lack of memory, but I don't remember us discussing the need to add that 5 acres. Did we talk about that when we were doing our planning stages?
In the initial planning, that wasn't part of the discussion. But again, when you look at the scope of the work that has been determined, particularly that loop road that will take the traffic off, Big Springs Road, and what's the road that's directly in front of it, though, that's Trousdale Fairport. And so it can go back behind the school. So with that, you're talking about, again, just the road itself, again, the needed and necessary sewer system that's going to have to be developed for the school, and then we're just placing that playground. So 5 acres becoming available directly behind the school, and we do need the property to make the project work.
So I didn't have a lapse in memory. I didn't remember that conversation. Next thing is, why are we taking this money out of our funds, our own internal funds? This should be funded through the county commission. You know, we gave up $5.5 to $6 million in the last budget cycle out of our fund balance. We don't have a lot of money to play with right now, so.
The main reason we recommended this amendment, Mr. Weathers, this way is simply because they need to close by October the 27th. The county commission's not going to issue the bonds on the elementary project until January, so we can get with the peer and have it reimbursed back to us. That's why we need to do the budget amendment right now. The other thing, if you remember the layout of the addition and the loop road and everything that we did at the work session, we did have the 5 acres in that discussion on that meeting, and because we had to expand the sewer system. So we did talk about that, and it's laid out in the rendering that you got on the addition of the property.
I'll have to go back and look. I didn't remember that.
But we didn't have a conversation specifically as far as addressing, because again, the property wasn't for sale at the time that we had the initial conversation, if I remember correctly.
Well, we did, from the standpoint, we talked about having to have it for the sewer. They've been looking since we talked in the spring in our first work session, and the housing market, as everybody knows, is really hot right now, so they found a house to offer their property for sale now. But if you look at that layout, it shows the loop road and the playground being moved into the state sanitation system on that 5 acres.
Do we have a drawing or a schematic of that?
Yeah, it's the same one we did at the work session. Remember the 11 by 17 book, Jason? Go back and look at it.
Okay.
And particularly look at that as far as that new addition, how it's positioned as far as what, when we're talking about what's displaced and why we need it.
The new addition goes all the way down Big Springs Road, all the way to the current playground. If you remember Big Springs Road, where the playground is right now behind the school. So the addition would go all the way there, and then the loop road comes along the 5 acre fence road down in front of that, back out on Big Springs Road. And then the sanitation system would be back out in the soil behind the house. It's not been disturbed, or the drainage lines for the sand system that's there. It would have to be expanded.
Okay.
You have had some discussion with some members of the budget committee. Yes, about having the money put back in their budget.
Yeah, and one of the questions the bond council always asks is when they start to issue the bonds is, do we have anything we need to reimburse you for? So that's a standard question on their checklist, and we'll add this back to that. That's why we propose the budget right now. And we'll get back when we issue it, probably around January for the elementary project.
And the total price of the land is $220?
Yes, sir.
There's a house on it.
There's a house, and
some other
there's a shed that he will be moving, and then they've been there for a while, and we'll have the timber, but we need to talk to the water authority because timber is on the soils that we need for the drainage, so we don't want a logger to go in there and disrupt the soils otherwise. That's one of the main reasons we need it is for the soil. So we have to be careful how we disturb that.
So I did not understand that displays the soil, yeah.
And I know that we have traffic issues at every school, but if you've ever been to Tucker's in the afternoon, especially traffic on Big Springs Road stops. And people that are going north or south on Big Springs Road toward I-40 or toward Trails and Ferry Pike, basically has to come around the cars that are sitting there in that line of traffic. Knock on wood, there's never been anything that's happened there. But this will really help that situation. It'll take care of that situation at that school. And, any other discussion at this time?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You know, the thing bothered me more about I think I understood most of it, but when that, above the appraised value, that bothered me more that we paid $36,000. But I just felt like the overall impact of the project, I mean, I just felt like this project needed to be done, and, you know, I had to weigh that $36,000 where I thought that project needed to be done, and so I'm going to support it.
All right. Any other discussion? You've heard the recommendation of the director that we purchased additional acreage there behind Tucker's Crossroads Elementary School with the changes to the agreement, that the recommendation from the county attorney there that will be corrected. So at this time, being no further discussion, all in favor of that motion, vote aye. Aye. Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. Dr. Wright.
Next in front of you, as far as a budget amendment 2016-03, again, an emergency purchase to paint the interior of Building A at Watertown Elementary, except for the gym and cafeteria, which will be part of the new renovation and will be demolished. And so we are not recommending that be executed. Again, when we look at the whole process of what we are executing at Building A, is completely a complete refurbishing of the building, and as was addressed earlier, talking about ductwork being replaced, taken out completely, new ceiling tiles, grid locked down, walls cleaned, sanitized, and then the painting contract. And again, looking at the bid that came in, and we're asking for $69,000, and we're asking that that come out of fund balance. And also, if you'll look at the breakdown there behind there, you'll see that there's a breakdown as far as what is being listed, and a guarantee for 2 years following the completion of the project by Suntel Brothers that's presented the bid.
Is this the discussion phase yet?
Not yet. All right. You've heard the recommendation of the director of schools about the painting contract for Watertown Elementary Building A. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Mr. Weathers. All right, now for the purpose of discussion.
Did we get bids on these? On this project?
We got that quote from a painter that's done work for us before.
Did we get bids on this project?
Just that one.
Not,
For time.
Just one?
For time in the emergency situation, it's just that one.
and it's out of county, out of Wilson County. We gotta go to Robertson County to do this, or?
You don't have to, they've just done a lot of work for us, and they do good work and they're reliable.
And plus, as Mr. McGee says, I mentioned before too, and again, this was something that was important, guarantee their work for 2 years after they finish the project.
I just can't believe there's nobody in Wilson County that could do it either.
Any other discussion?
Just one question. We're using an enamel. Is it a water base? Paint?
No, it'll be, I think it will be oil-based,
Okay.
because the paint that's on it's oil-based.
Should we consider, since we've had this issue, epoxy paint? Which is much more rugged, much more durable, easier to clean.
Much more expensive.
It is, but you get what you pay for.
But here, I think we're having to go back with this because of what's on the walls, so it adheres to it. You start mixing the paints, from what I understand about that, the paint they
I'm just
propose.
thinking, if you put something up that'll last 10 or 20 years.
It would be a lot difference in price. We did not price the epoxy paint out. It would be different.
But that's what's noted in the bid too, though, is we're talking about an industrial environment.
Okay. Just a question.
Any other discussion? No discussion, all in favor of contracting with the Centel?
Centel Brothers, yes.
Centel Brothers to paint the building A. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please show that it passed unanimously. Dr. Donna.
And next before you is, I'm asking for approval of budget amendment 2016-04 for earnest money for future buildings. Again, if you'll look inside as far as what was attached as a memo, not only the budget amendment, but regarding earnest money for 4 properties for future buildings. And again, this would be something that we would take out of the mixed drink reserves, $134,000. And you have a breakdown too, again, as far as attachment, what that budget would look like.
Do I hear a motion to approve transfer of money into the account for the earnest money for the land purchases?
So moved.
And I'm not going to go into all this stuff on the real estate thing. I'm sure, Mr. Attorney, you've had a chance to look at all this, everything good on that?
On these contracts,
Yes, agreement for sale of real estate?
I've looked at them, there's a couple of things need to be tweaked, but
Okay,
by and large, they're okay.
all right. You've heard the recommendation of the director? Yes, sir.
Which properties are these?
Again, you're looking at the elementary properties, and again, you should have that as a backup attachment as far as, oh, yours one over? Okay. You've got the elementary, you've got the middle school, you've got the elementary middle school complex, and what am I leaving out?
That's it.
That's it, because yes, that was the only, that was approved by the board. We're talking about 3 properties.
No, that's what they're talking about. Yeah.
Any other discussion?
The general purpose school fund.
Did we get a motion on that?
I mean,
Second for discussion.
Okay, all right, so we're in the discussion stage? Okay, any other discussion on that before we vote on it?
Nobody made a second.
Huh? We didn't get a second? I need a second on that motion tonight, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for keeping me straight. Second with Mr. Robinson?
We've already approved this contract, this is on property.
Okay. And
Still got to vote on the contract.
I think at one time, I'm in the discussion stage now, if memory serves me correctly, that's what we said all along, that we were gonna use our liquor tax money for, right? Land purchase, that kind of thing? Okay, all right. Okay, any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? They show pass unanimously. All right. Dr. Dunn?
Next, I'm asking for approval of the land contracts as written. And again, this is placed before you as far as looking at the agreement for sale of real estate in elementary, middle school, elementary, and middle school properties.
You've heard the recommendation of the director on the land contracts that we have for the elementary, middle school.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a couple of comments on the contracts?
Certainly.
On the first one, the one with Odom trustee, on paragraph 13, there's a line in there that concerns me a little bit. It says, any fees payable to the escrow agent not specifically allocated in this agreement shall be equally divided between the buyer and seller. That's pretty open-ended. I would recommend that not be in there. The other thing is the same thing I said a while ago about the holding harmless in paragraph 14. I think everything else there is okay. You gonna take them all up at one time, or you gonna take them one at a time?
the time.
All right.
Whatever you recommend.
Well, I'm done with that one, then we'll go to the next one when you get that, when you get the hay in the barn on that.
Which one is that?
That's the first one, it says elementary at the top.
But that's dependent upon meeting, taking care of what you're recommending.
Yes, sir, and Bill, it's got several provisions in there of time constraints. They've got to provide this by certain times. All those things have to fall into place, of course. But the one I'm just a little, and that line may be harmless, but it's, I don't like, I like to know what I'm buying, what I'm paying for.
So this is on the elementary
Yes.
property?
Yes, sir.
All right. All in favor of the director's recommendation on the Odom property for the elementary school?
You need a motion.
Vote aye. Or,
Need a motion.
do I hear a motion? I need a motion. I need a motion. Do I hear a motion? On the elementary school,
One on Central Pike.
on Central Pike. Motion from Ms. Armstrong, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Withers. Any discussion at this stage?
I do have one. Do we get a 20-acre price and a 30-acre price?
We got a 20-acre price. They did not want us to break off any of the other pieces of the property. They just wanted to do the 20 acres based on this contract they brought to us. They said we might come back later, but they didn't want to break it up at this time.
And Mr. Hall, make sure everyone is aware as far as how late the notice was that we were given, because that was something that in our conversation we asked based on your request. So
They brought this in like at 2:30 Monday afternoon, right before we got the packets ready for you all.
Okay.
That's how late it came.
That was one where we're talking about having a bus shop.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor, vote aye. Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. Second parcel.
One on the middle school, Mr. Chairman, I think the only change I would have is the one I mentioned a while ago about us not holding anybody harmless. And then on paragraph 21, it says if not accepted by October 5, 2015, this offer is withdrawn. You've got about 2 hours and 55 minutes left to do that. Doesn't make any difference to me, but I thought that was a little odd it was that quick.
Where was that at, paragraph 15?
Paragraph 21 on the page 9. Today is the 5th, isn't it?
Saying accept this proposal.
Yeah.
For the contingency.
We've heard the recommendation of the director on the middle school property. Did I hear a motion?
yes.
Motion by Ms. Armstrong. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Robinson. Any discussion?
This is a property that, on Stewart's Ferry, that we looked at a couple months ago, whenever that was.
Last month.
Right there, just
Last month.
just west of Lake. Stewart's Ferry. Any other discussion? All in favor of the request, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No, you voted no? Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Robinson, yes. Show I voted yes. That shows it passed 3-2. Mr. Withers voted no and Mr. McNeese voted no. Next one, elementary middle school property. Assume that's over there off of
Off the Stone Farm property.
Farm property, right there by Manchega High School.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The only one I have on this one, Mr. Chairman, is that hold harmless provision.
Okay. You heard the recommendation on the elementary middle school. property being there on, what do y'all call it, Golden Bear Parkway or whatever it is? Something like that,
Yes.
right there by the, okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McNeese, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Armstrong. Purpose of discussion, any discussion?
How many acres is in this piece, Mr. Hall?
I think it's like right at 53 acres.
52.
That's adequate for everything we need.
According to the civil site, and they laid it out on that drawing for you, yes, sir.
Yep, and we can tap into sewer on that location, not have to do an internal sewer system.
Correct. It'll come off, it'll be tied into the city of Mount Judd sewer system through the Stone Farm, somewhere in that area,
Yeah, they'll probably run it down Golden Bear Parkway when they're connected.
or the creek, either one.
Back to the road. Okay, that's all I have.
And there's been 2 conversations with that developer too.
Yes.
There's been some talk and some discussion about when they might have that connector road finished from I-40 over there to that site. And it's been put on fast track. It'll be done a lot quicker, I think, than anybody ever anticipated. No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, elementary, middle school property off of Golden Bear Parkway, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. Yes, sir, Mr.
Just
Thomas.
in case you all get any calls, Stone Farm has started developing their property, and we have their site contractors in touch with Mr. Brown in case people are calling you, because they are starting to blast, put in the infrastructure for their subdivision. So in case you get any calls, we do have them getting in touch with Mr. Brown at the school to sort of warn them when they're going to blast and do different things.
Mr. Thompson, that concludes, we withdrew number 18 on the high school site recommendation, and so that concludes my recommendations for the evening.
Any old business to come before the Wilson County Board of Education this time?
I want to give a shout out to our new transportation director. I forget his name, Arlo, I believe, could be. I am glad to see Jerry Parlow back with Wilson County School System.
Glad to have you back, Jerry. I've already told Jerry that, but yeah, it's I think we can already see the benefits of having Jerry back. Things are running smooth. I think it is. Jerry, would you like to give a report? Anything since what you yeah, the floor's open, it's yours. Come on up.
No, I want to just thank Dr. Wright and Mr. Hall and the school board for giving me the opportunity to come back. During one of the reports, I heard some comment about surplus buses and drivers. Was that Patton Hollow or Peru? Where I can make me find something. It is great to be back. And I tell you, this transportation staff, I find to be very adequate, work above average hours. They're very dedicated to try to make this correct. And just in my short time, I can see a difference in the attitude of the staff and the drivers. So I feel very fortunate to be back here. I want to thank you all.
Jerry, you still looking for drivers, I guess?
Yes, sir. We need 7 or 8. We need to actually add back a few routes that were eliminated because we've got some overcrowding, Lebanon, Mount Juliet. So now everything in Watertown seems to be running pretty well. But we've got a few areas of concern of overcrowding.
You got enough buses?
Yes, sir, we got enough buses. Buses are easy to park. The drivers are the hard part. They make those buses every day.
I will say that.
Can I wait till tomorrow and disagree?
Sorry?
1 or 2 items. Can I wait till tomorrow and disagree?
Yes.
But we did have several drivers return because of Mr. Carlo as well, though. He will not say that, I will say it.
Yeah, we were fortunate.
And I thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, EA.
Okay, Big Pete.
Under old business,
I don't even want to go there.
I asked Dr. Wright tonight to pull item 18, which was the RFP for the land purchase for a new high school in the Mount Juliet area. And I asked her to do that because of some of the comments that have been made concerning that specific site that we had identified down there. Now, Mike, I guess it would be, I'm not going to say it's a challenge to the board, but my request to the board would be that if that site that's been identified is not acceptable, that we diligently try to find one that is. And you guys that live in that area down there are much more familiar with what might be available and what might not be available. And I would suspect that since we can't, we're not right now all sold on that site down there, Mr. Hall, we have to go back through the original process again and issue RFPs to see if anybody's come forward now that hadn't done something in the past?
If you don't select another site that's in all the RFPs, yes. Then you need to reject all of them if you're going to say none of them are good and you want us to start over. But you can, if there's another site that's in the RFPs that you want to look at, you can. Otherwise, you need to reject all of them and tell us to issue another RFP.
With that being said then, you know, I know that it's not, we know that we're going to have to build another high school in the Mountain Juliet area. There's no question about that. So whatever we need to do to keep this process moving forward, and ladies and gentlemen, that's what we need to do. And like I say, I'm not down there every day, so I don't know the site that we looked at. Yeah, it had some, I guess you could say, challenges with it or toward it. But I don't know of, I don't know of any piece of land that we might find that it's not going to have some kind of a challenge to it, you know. But I would just encourage you guys and ladies to get with Mickey and Dr. Wright and keep this process rolling, whatever it takes to get this done. Because we certainly don't need to be in the real estate business, but we don't need to drag our feet on this either. That's all I got. I'd appreciate any comments from you all about that, how you feel about that. But that's just what I thought.
Is it, Mr. Hall, Mr. Jennings, would it be more, which would be the better way of going forward? Reject everything and start again, or, I mean, that would be our two options, I guess.
Well, if you're interested in one or the other of the two sites you've already got, there's no sense doing anything else. But if you want to open it back up, then reject these two, open it back up, and these two are free to propose again as well as anybody else. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and lower your ease, it did, yes, I understood.
That's a gift. I'm kidding, it's late, okay? I'm kidding.
Okay.
You know, if you want to go with either one of them that you've got, there's no sense opening it back up. But if you know now that you don't want to go there, you might as well open it back up and start taking proposals again.
One was Stewart's Ferry and 171, what was the other one?
You had been on the high school side. You had the one that's between Hickory Hills and West Division. You had the one that you selected for the elementary site, so I'm assuming that one's off the table. Then you had Bender's Ferry. So you had Bender's Ferries, and that one's the only two you got right now on RPC. if you look at anything that was proposed in the other three, you can't, because they're still out there. Except for A, because you rejected all of A.
I don't remember the Vendors Ferry project.
Bender's Ferry is north of the current Mount Judd High School.
I know where Vendors Ferry is, but I don't remember the property out
It's out there about a mile or two on the right, the track.
Going down Vendors Ferry Road?
Yes, sir.
Disregard Joe's notes. Thank you for letting me walk up here for a second. So here, there's the current Mount High School. So it's just due north of it down Vendors Ferry.
How many acres was that?
Actually, 64 acres across the 2.5 722 Vendors Ferry.
And that was C3?
Yes.
Is that down 2 Mays Chapel Road?
That is before.
Before Mays Chapel.
It's about halfway from Lebanon Road to Mays Chapel.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to repeat what I repeated last time. The growth is in southwest portion of the county right now, to the tune of 1,200 to 1,500 houses, 2,000 to 2,500 apartments, and another subdivision of 450 that's trying to get water run to it right now. And there's developers trying to buy land every day to build more houses. So I think there's a piece of property that was submitted for a middle school that's about 55 acres, and the adjoining property to it was submitted for an elementary school that's A1 and B2, if my memory serves me right. Or it might have been A2 and B1, but there's about a 90-acre joint between two owners that could be put together and possibly build a high school and an elementary school, since we're going to build a middle school on the Streets Ferry. But we're going to have to build another elementary school at some point in the future. And if you join those two pieces of property together, you can have one campus with two schools on it. I prefer a middle school and a high school.
That'd be enough for three? Put elementary in there?
Could put a middle and elementary.
Don, I appreciate what you're saying. But right now, we're building how many homes at Stone's property? Can we have a high school that's over 2,100? And I know there's growth where you're talking.
You can take a lot of those kids away from Mount Juliet High School and make room for those.
From where?
From the west side.
Is it possible to, if we consider the first site off West Division, could we not use the entrance to the other subdivision? Could we just have the one entrance, possibly? I know transportation-wise, it would be much better if we were able to use and create that road we were talking about at the end of that cul-de-sac and make a thoroughfare. It would be much more advantageous for everybody in getting there, but maybe we could open that up at some later point and use just the entrance for West Division of railroad bed, subdivision.
Well, I would be against, from a safety standpoint, taking anything through Hickory Hills or Willoughby. So you would have to come off of Division to get there. And one entrance, we already got a similar problem at Central with just a one entrance and it acts up. The safety issue is what I got a problem with the division. The problem I've got is Stewart Ferry though, I don't know where, you said pull them from the west, yeah, but where? I mean, most of the kids right now that go to Mount Juliet High School are Willoughby, Hickory Hill, and the Lakeview area. Where you gonna pull them from there?
You just have to pull from wherever you can. I don't know, I haven't sat down and looked at the population map in detail, but you're gonna have to pull students wherever you go.
Do we need to recommend, do we need to reject the RFPs on these high school sites and start over again? Is that what y'all recommend? Is that what y'all, is that what, because, I mean, we need to keep this process rolling. We've been here almost a little over 3 hours now. So I would recommend whatever we need to do, whatever we need to do, and we need to have a work session to sit down, start this whole process over again.
Mr. Chairman, I
just leave it back.
I don't know if it's a legal matter or not, but it sounds to me like, well, I guess it is. It sounds to me like you're still considering at least 2 of those sites, and you just got some reservations about each one of them that you either got to work through or throw them out. But it doesn't sound to me like you're quite ready to reject them just yet.
What's the feeling of the board? Is the consensus of the board that with some further discussion and maybe logistical changes that we might could find something suitable with on these 2 sites that's out there? Or are you thinking we're in an impasse and we're not going to do anything until we find another site? Y'all tell me what you want to do. we need to reject these, or we need to go on and do these and come back with a work session?
Well, could we have a work session and discuss perhaps before we reject?
That will be.
Yes.
Mr. Morris, could you tell me, you have all the kids that go to Mount Juliet High School currently on your...
Yes, sir.
Do you have an updated map for us?
Not updated.
Pardon?
Huh?
I do not have an updated map. But
So, Ms. Morris, you've also got a new visual as far as that does as far as all those dots that we originally looked at as far as looking at shades of
I do have that.
population density.
I do not have that with me tonight, but I will get that to you. What we did was we took, to go completely off track and come right back to it, sorry. We took all of the student population, the dots that we had been using before, and broke the county up down into 1 square mile segments. And then went even further than that and looked at the population density of how many students were within these small squares. And I could probably email this to you tonight, so you guys can have that tonight. It was a really cool visual graphic where it really popped where those kids were.
Where when you take from yellow to red?
Right, they went from yellow to red, with red being the densest and yellow being the least dense. It zoned in on the different packs of where the children were. Instead of trying to look at this map where it's really good seeing that you've got your green students here or your red students here, but that map really shows you where the hot pockets are. But to Ms. McNeese, to your first question, the students for, you said Mount Juliet Elementary School?
High school.
High school, yes, sir.
Or from the high school land.
High school, you can see the yellow dots here, most of the students here, and then here towards the peninsula.
So you're talking about Hickory Hills, Lakeview, and Willoughby?
Yes, sir, correct.
Is probably 90%, 80%?
80% for sure.
And I can't foresee sending any of those back across the interstate to Stewart's Ferry.
We already are sending them across the interstate from Old Lebanon Dirt Road, across the interstate to Wilson Central. We're already doing that. That's what we're trying to eliminate.
I agree. I mean, I really appreciate Mr. Weather. We're gonna have to have a school over there. Do we need to buy that property now? That may be true, but is that where we need to build the next high school at? That's where I would differ with Mr. Weather.
Yes, sir.
So I just leave it at that. I think we need to have a work session and then make a determination if we're gonna reject or send out a new RFQ, or RFP, or ABC, even if we want to send an ABC out.
Looking at the calendar here, when do y'all prefer to have a work session? Do you want to do it on a Friday afternoon?
That's good, Larry.
Take a look to your left.
Now, Linda could be here next month, is that right, Linda?
Next month?
Monday.
Monday.
I'm talking about 2 weeks from tonight.
The 19th?
County Commission.
Yeah?
County Commission. I'll be gone the 12th.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
The
But I'll be
what?
back. I'm ready 13, 14, 15, 16. I can work.
Did I say that?
On Friday.
Well, that's more lawyer-y.
That's our brain.
Back on the 19th?
That's our brain.
Mike, did you understand me?
That's it.
Okay.
County Commission night.
Honestly,
This is county commission.
2
It
weeks
is.
from tonight.
It's County Commission night.
But we can meet early. Can we meet early?
There's a golf tournament for Mount Juliet High School that day.
Well,
Early.
meet
On the
early.
19th?
I mean, it's at 12 o'clock. So,
Breakfast.
I could do that.
Saturday. We're saying Saturday.
No, we were saying 19th. I'm okay with, but Larry's not going to be on the 17th. He's absent.
Are you going to?
I'll be on Thursday.
What about the 20th?
You won't ever.
Wayne, are you okay with the Tuesday?
Not between August and about the middle of January.
Nope.
Wayne?
Not really. I've got to be in Virginia that week.
That's fine.
I'm leaving Tuesday morning to go to Virginia.
So Monday is the best day, except you've got what?
There's a Mount Juliet High School golf tournament at 12 o'clock. At high noon.
On the 19th, or?
Yes, ma'am. For the baseball court. And I'm a returning champion, so I got to show up.
Morning, morning. What about the morning, Larry?
Only thing I can guarantee is a Saturday. That's Sunday.
It's not going to be-
Tuesdays, I don't know.
It don't matter to me, I'll be here, I can be here on the 19th, I can be here on the 20th. Anytime during that week, I can be here. Wayne, if we set that work session on the 19th at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, that's the county commission meeting, right? So y'all gotta be, Dr. Wright's gotta be there to do her thing. They meet at 7, and I'm gonna give us time. I don't know.
Can
5
we,
o'clock be bad?
what about 2 hours before the next board meeting?
That'll be on November
The
the
second.
Second.
I can probably do that.
Okay.
Best idea I've heard.
You're just trying to make a decision faster.
We will have a work session on November the 2nd, beginning at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And I vote we adjourn.
Hey, then,
Yes, I am.
Okay? Wait a minute, you make anything else? You be here? November 2nd?
November 2nd, the day of the next board meeting.
We here, okay.
I just don't want
I'm just going
to,
to add that that visual that Mr. Morris gave reference to, that's all been emailed to you, so you can look at that population density. So that's all there for you to look at. It's all out.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm like Bill Robinson.
I'm like.
I just assume do it at 3 o'clock.
I think we should just.
It'll give us plenty of time to look through it.
3 o'clock.
That's just me and Bill.
3 o'clock.
Kelly's cooking, then let's go.
3?
We will 3 o'clock?
Is it at 3 or 4?
You didn't hear that.
I heard you. What you want?
Larry, is it at 3 or 4?
It's gonna be 3.
3?
It's gonna be 3.
Donna.
No.
The kid is cooking steaks.
Are you a Jones?
Steak today. We're adjourned.